Fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the troubling events of the past week.
I'm going to pull the whole thing down. I'm going to bring the whole fucking diseased, corrupt temple down on your head. It's going to be biblical.
How's it going, everybody? FCB here. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing fantastic. And I hope you're all in amazing spirits. And welcome to the Pulse here on the Freedom Channel broadcast. How was that amazing parade? I still can't get over it. It was fantastic, wasn't it, guys? Loved it. It boosted up a lot of people's morale. It's exactly what we needed. Another, shall we say, kick in the pants for all of us. Now, talk about a kick in the pants. Let's talk about what's going on with Iran and Israel. Pretty full on, isn't it? And this is the thing. I mean, you would have thought that President Trump would have stepped in by now. And, had he been with Israel, I mean, even though he's got to play the game, I'm with Israel. No, don't believe that garbage. Okay? No, he's got to play the little game there. Because he's saying right now that, oh, no, they've got to fight it out. No, we're not going to get involved now. We've got to fight it out. Now, he was asked those questions at just recently at the White House. How about we look at this this video right here, ladies and gentlemen? Pay attention.
So we're going to Canada. Last night was a tremendous success with a fantastic audience. It was supposed to rain. They gave it a 100% chance of rain, and it didn't rain at all. It was beautiful. And so I asked if they gave it 100% chance, right? 100% it was going to rain like crazy, and it didn't rain at all. How did they predict 100 years out and 50 years out or 200 years out? They didn't do too well, the weather people, last night, but it was beautiful.
President, are you and Prime Minister Netanyahu on the same page concerning how to deal with Iran?
Well, we get along very well, and I will tell you that I think I have great respect for each other.
Can you give us a leader or solution?
Go ahead, what?
Mr. President, can you give us a sense of what de-escalate the situation between Iran and Israel?
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal. What? So the protesters, if we didn't have the National Guard on call and ready, they would rip Los Angeles apart. They come and they check and they say, is the National Guard going to be there? And if the National Guard's being there, they don't even show up.
Have you asked Israel to pause their airstrikes into Iran?
Well, I don't want to say that.
Mr. President, do you expect to have some trade deals announced at the G7 summit coming up?
Look, we have our trade deals. All we have to do is send a letter. This is what you're going to have to pay. but I think we'll have a few new trade deals. Yeah.
Will the U.S. continue to support the defense of Israel? Will the U.S. continue to support Israel in its defense?
We do. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody.
Oh yeah, that was quite interesting, wasn't it? Yes, Israel and Iran. No, they got to fight it out. Really, didn't he say exactly the same thing with Russia and Ukraine? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He said exactly the same thing. Now, think about this. Had he been an advocate for Israel, okay, had he been really for Israel, he would have found a way of getting himself involved or getting America involved in this war. Let's be honest. All right, now we've got to go future proofs past. Because in the past, ladies and gentlemen, people like George W. Bush or presidents like him and others listen to the garbage and the deception and the lies of Netanyahu. How about we watch this clip? It'll explain what this is getting at.
Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever. And there is no question that once he acquires it, history shifts immediately. In 1981, the late Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, dispatched the Israeli Air Force on a pre-dawn raid that destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor at Osirak. And today the United States must destroy the same regime because a nuclear-armed Saddam will place the security of our entire world at risk. And make no mistake about it, if and once Saddam has nuclear weapons, the terror network will have nuclear weapons.
Netanyahu, who in the 80s brags how they control America. We own the Senate, the Congress, and we have a strong Jewish lobby on our side. We have strong influence over the general public. America won't force us into anything. Half a dozen wars ago.
אבל אנחנו הולכים למסלול התנגשות עם הממשל האמריקאי. ארצות הברית זה לא מקשה אחת, זה לא מקשה אחת. יש את הסנאט, יש את הקונגרס, יש את הכוח היהודי שהוא עצום, יותר חזק משהיה אי פעם. יש דעת קהל, יש לנו כוחות כבירים בדעת הקהל שמתנגדים למדיניות הזאת, גדולי הפרשנים. אמריקה לא תכפה לנו דבר.
That is another FCB truth bomb, ladies and gentlemen, that I just created, which is going to be up on the on the truth bomb section. So anyone that turns around and says, "Oh, you know, we're for Israel," really now, throw in that little truth bomb, and we'll see if they're going to be for Israel afterwards. Especially when you know Mr. Netanyahu, and that's what I'm saying in the video. You can't doubt it. Number one, as what does Q says, future proofs past. Let's go through that video together. Number one, this is the future. In other words, 2025 right now. Okay, let me just mute that and I'll explain. In the future, or right now, what has he done? He's blaming Iran from the same old playbook. The same old playbook. He's saying that Iran has the provision to make nuclear weapons. In other words, what's a nuclear weapon? A weapon of mass destruction. Let's go through this together.
The Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime.
There you go. Now, what he tried to do was to try and get America involved. That's what he tried to do. But it failed.
We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb.
Now, future was there. This is proving the past. In 2002, Prime Minister Netanyahu convinced the United States to attack Iraq because he believed Saddam Hussein was making nuclear weapons. It's exactly the same playbook, ladies and gentlemen. And where's the weapons of mass destruction? They're nowhere to be found, are they?
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons.
Now, he's saying that back in the past, in the future, you could see, future proves past. Once a liar, always a liar. Once a deceiver, always a deceiver. Now, he convinced more like it was all for the mass consciousness. After all, George W. Bush and all of them were corrupt anyway. So he went out there. This is in 2002. And he went out there and he said about Saddam Hussein having a nuclear weapon or the provision to make one. Now, think about this. How many people, you know, about the military. I'm not just talking about America, ladies and gentlemen. Australia was involved. The Western world was involved. Now, have a think about this. How many of our military died over there or were maimed? Brothers and sisters, children, fathers, mothers. Have a think. Let's think about that. Just from this man's words right there. This man has caused genocide. He literally has. He's a genocidal maniac. You want to talk about the real Holocaust? That's the real one right there. He's been playing that little Holocaust card as a way of safeguarding their little narratives and getting what they want at the cost of everybody else.
No question whatsoever. And there is no question that once he acquires it, history shifts immediately. In 1981, the late Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, dispatched the Israeli Air Force on a pre-dawn raid that destroyed the Iraqi nuclear reactor at Osirak.
And that's the thing. Where's the weapons of mass destruction? They're nowhere to be found. They're nowhere to be found at all. Now, this is the time where he had the audacity to go out on TV and say that the United States is not a unified bloc, meaning they don't work together. The Congress, the legislative branch, the politicians don't work together. It's not a unified bloc. He's telling you right now that they've got lobbyists that control your Congress people, not just our politicians, everyone's. And there's different manifestations, ladies and gentlemen. Don't think it's just in the United States. They're all over the place, just in different names. Now think about this for a moment. That this guy that is going out there and saying and laughing about it, that, hey, don't worry about it. The United States of America isn't a unified bloc. We control them. And yet, when I see people that sit on the sidelines and cheer this shit on, Do you see how ridiculous it is? It is absolutely ridiculous.
Netanyahu, who in the 80s brags how they control America. We own the Senate, the Congress, and we have a strong Jewish lobby on our side.
There you go. A strong Jewish lobby. AIPAC. Both the left and the right, they serve them. You got Hillary, she was with AIPAC. You got Speaker Johnson, Marco Rubio, all of them, left, right, Hakeem Jeffries, they're all under the same beast. They all serve the same beast. You want to see the deep state? That's your deep state right there. Welcome to your deep state. We have strong influence over the general support in America. Now think about this. Your vote doesn't account for anything. Why? It doesn't matter who you vote for. It's who they have their allegiance to. Your Congress people, your president, all that. It's who they have their allegiance to. And that's what you've got to remember. That's the real deep state right here. That's why Q says leaving the state of Israel for last.
We have strong influence over the general public. America won't force us into anything. Half a dozen wars ago.
אבל אנחנו הולכים למסלול התנגשות עם הממשל האמריקאי. ארצות הברית זה לא מקשה אחת. זה לא מקשה אחת.
We have the Senate, the Congress, and a record strong Jewish lobby on our side. Manipulation. US policy is being manipulated. And as I said, they're in different manifestations around the world. Even here in Australia, all over the world, ladies and gentlemen, there's different manifestations. They just happen to be called AIPAC in America. The AGC, American Jewish Congress. And there are other depictions of them worldwide. And they're all being, don't you worry, left and right, it doesn't matter. They all serve the same beast. It's the illusion of democracy. Now think about how sick these entities are, the state of Israel, these Zionists. Now I want to give you the lowdown. Number one, you know what the Mossad is. The Mossad are like the CIA. Now, they have had their finger in every pie worldwide. 9/11, Epstein Island, Operation Susanna, USS Liberty. And I'm telling you right now, you will be surprised, when it all comes out, these people won't be able to cope with these kind of harsh realities. Now, as I said, I don't blame the people of Israel or the state of Israel because they're being manipulated themselves. In fact, they're being used as a human shield. You heard correctly. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, okay, what they do, this is how sick this state of Israel, this is how sick these Zionists are. That what they do is they use them as a human shield. Let me show what I mean. That is the headquarters of military intelligence or military headquarters, which also encompasses the Mossad. They are surrounded by civilians. Have a look at that, where they are. Because you know what? They've got a human shield around them. They don't care about the people. Do you see how they protect them, that particular entity? By surrounding them with people. So anyone that goes to try and take these over or destroy them, you're destroying the civilians, which makes automatically the attackers look really bad. But it's not about that. These entities right here have got bunkers under the ground. Don't you worry. Massive bomb bunkers to protect themselves. They don't care about the people here. They are collateral damage. That's what they are. And that's the top view of the Mossad headquarters and Department of Defense in Israel. It's located in Tel Aviv. Have a look around you. All civilians. Do you think they're stupid? They know what they're doing. They're sick. They don't care about their own people. And I wish and I hope that the people that are from Israel are watching this show right now to see what kind of scum they've got themselves involved with. That's what I want people from Israel to see, that I've got their back and I'm exposing these entities, because these demonic entities need to be exposed on how they're using the people as a human shield. Do you see the Pentagon where it is? It's not like that. This is where you got to get that. This is the filth. This is how disgusting they really are. Now, when they had the impact, right? You know, where they try to destroy this, apparently impacted outside of this area here. These Mossad, they're everywhere. They really are. Now, this is the thing. You also got Tulsi Gabbard that was saying, and she went out on record and she said that Iran weren't building a nuclear weapon. Have a listen.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon.
Let me just play that back.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
There you go. So, according to Tulsi Gabbard, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. And Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended. He suspended it in 2003. Now, what does that tell you? No, it tells you that Mr. Netanyahu wants to wipe off Iran. He doesn't care about anybody or anything. He doesn't care what expense. He's a criminal. He's gone around and he's used people as a human shield. Another image of the criminal Netanyahu during his visits to the buildings that were destroyed by Iranian missiles. Now, did you know that the Iranian missiles did not attack civilians? It went after strategic points. That's what they were after, not civilians. But no, Mr. Netanyahu did the opposite. You know, went after, didn't care. Didn't care about a damn thing at all. And then they use this nuclear thing, like they got nuclear bombs, and you got Tulsi Gabbard going out on record and saying that's not the case. And then you got Israel. No, we're going to go there and we're going to play this little game. We're going to go there, we're going to bomb the shit out of Iran like we've already wanted to do, like we did with Iraq. Like we manipulated the United States of America back in the day with Iraq. But it didn't work this time. President Trump knows what the game is. That's why Q says leaving Israel for last. That person, that state of Israel, Zionists, don't care about their own people. They don't care. They'll sacrifice every damn lot of them if they have to. Have a look at this. A 2-month-old infant that was attacked by those missiles. They went after residential areas. Now, could this be part of the psyop wars? Well, yes. We know that these are controlled military operations that are taking place. Psychological warfare is basically how they win the hearts and the minds of the masses. And we are in psy warfare. We're in psy wars, ladies and gentlemen. We literally are in psy wars. Now, obviously, when you see a baby like that, that's covered in bandage, it hits you in the heart, doesn't it? And Q, what does Q says? That the children will unite humanity. But you're also seeing how the mainstream media are as well. You're seeing how the mainstream media have gone, with Israel. They're not going with what's really going on. They're basically being shown what they are, fake news. Now, Russia's gone out there and said Israel provoked the attack. And President Trump, he's washed his hands clean. He's not getting involved. He said he's not getting involved. Have a listen to what Russia has to say.
In the early hours of the 13th of June, Israel delivered a number of extensive strikes against the territory of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Peaceful, sleeping cities were struck, civilian infrastructure, and...
What did he just say? Peaceful, civilian cities were struck. Civilians were struck. Whereas Iran went after strategic points. They went after military bases. They went after, the airports. They went after certain locations. Now think about this. What does the Mossad do? The Department of Defense. They're located right in the heart of Tel Aviv, done by design, and they surrounded themselves with a civilian shield, human shield.
Peaceful nuclear installations under IAEA safeguards. We heard from the briefers today that there have been victims amongst civilians. This completely unprovoked attack, no matter what Israel says to the contrary, is a gross violation of the UN Charter.
There you go. It's a gross violation of the UN Charter. But no, they get a free pass. And it's always been that way. But now it's future-proofs past, ladies and gentlemen. They've been shown. They've been shown. Don't you worry. People are watching. They're watching what's going on. Okay? And President Trump saying, yeah, we're going to make a deal. We're close to a deal. He said the same thing about Russia. I mean, look, he's got to play the game. He has to play the game. And what he's saying now is, no, let it play out. Let it play out and let's see what happens. Well, we've seen the devastation. Have you seen the devastation in Israel? Because you know what? Israel now is looking like Gaza. You can't tell the difference. Don't you worry about that. Iran really brought down the hammer. Let me show you this video that I compiled, ladies and gentlemen. It goes for around 8 minutes. Okay? And I call it Iran's revenge. Because you know what? Did Israel expect to go in there and pull that little stunt like they did back in the day with Iraq and expect Iran to do nothing about it? People don't realize who you're dealing with. Iran, are masters at decoys. Don't you worry about that. I'm going to show you some things that are going to blow your mind. They are masters at decoys. They think that they've gotten this and they've gotten that. They've got nothing as far as their... And what Netanyahu tried to do was to use psychological warfare against the people of Iran. And he said, oh yes, go against your leaders. So he tried to turn them to go against the leaders. And then he said, why don't you run out of your military bases? Why? Because he doesn't know where the military bases are. So you think about it, they're spying constantly on Iran to see where these people are going to run. And nobody ran. And then Elon said about turning on Starlink, that the beam is on. And then they said, no, don't. Iran, the government said, don't involve yourself. Don't switch on Starlink. Don't connect up to it because there's another way of locating things. See, Musk is also with the state of Israel. We've been through that before. I've shown you that in the previous video. You think the state of Israel's got one up on Iran? Think again. The thing is, the mainstream media have been sitting there trying to portray them to be the aggressor. Well, hold on a minute. They're not the aggressor. They're not the aggressor at all. They were the aggressors, the state of Israel that went over there and started it all. Now, this is another future-proof past. This has all been done by design. Because remember, you've got to bring this whole system down. And a lot of fingers are going to be pointing towards the Mossad, towards the state of Israel. And it's only logical that we're in the last length of this plan, an 8-year plan. Therefore, it's only logical that we start to get things to a much more, shall we say, heightened level of escalation. And as Q says, leaving Israel for last. So it only makes logical sense. Please enjoy this video that I did, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, it goes for about 8 minutes. Okay, and it is something that I compiled. Now, it starts off with Israel's attack on Iran. But then, ladies and gentlemen, you see how the coin flips over. The red flag goes up, which means revenge. It goes up on the mosques. And you know what? The people, you want to talk about the people, not just of Iran, not just of Yemen, Lebanon, and all these other countries that are cheering this on. Because you know what? Even Iraq, they used to fight with Iran. That was done by design. That was done by the cabal. But now Iraq has teamed up with Iran. And they're working together. And then we got Turkey in the midst. Don't you worry. Remember what Erdogan promised? Don't you worry. I'll bring you to the steps of Jerusalem. That's what he promised these people. He's waiting for the most opportune moment. That's what he's waiting for. And don't you worry. Things are coming to a head. You could see it. This is what I call Iran's revenge, ladies and gentlemen. Please enjoy.
ايوه اوبا سقوط صاروخ في حيفا. شوف سووا في حولك. يا ويلي يا حبيبه يا ويلي عليك. حبيبه حط طنجره الدبس عروسه. يا يوسف الدبس טוב, הם פגעו בבתי זיקוק, או ליד הבתי זיקוק. הם פגעו שם באזור. הכל בוער. يا بعرف اخطف واحد نزل فوق. بعرف اخطف فوق 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 فوق. يا ابوي.
What did you think it was going to be? A picnic? Did you think it was going to be a military parade with cotton candy and laughter? How else did you think we were going to get to this? Let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. What does QDrop521 says? We're at war. What, did you think it was all going to be song and dance? How else do you think you're going to get a worldwide EBS? I've been saying it all along. A World War III scare necessary event. How else? This is what people really got to get, ladies and gentlemen. This is not fun and games. This is not about, you know, med beds and the Sahara Jassara and all that little hopium stuff. No. This is real life. This is what you got to get. How else did you think you're going to get a worldwide EBS? How else did you think? What, people punching on in DC? We need to get real, ladies and gentlemen. We're at war. Not everything will be clean. What don't people get? Do you think when I say these things in this Q drop that I'm talking out of my ass? Or I'm talking out of thin air? Q's telling us scare necessary event. Now, how else did you think we're going to, you know, Q says it's going to be biblical. What, do you think it's not going to be full on? Let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. I know people don't like what they see, but you've got to remember these are controlled military operations. Do you see what that says in green? We are in control. That's what it says there. We are in control. But even though we're in control, not everything is going to be clean. Because as I said, you know, how are you going to bring in the narrative? How are you going to expose the Zionist state of Israel for what it is? How are you going to bring in the truth? Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because things are going to get a lot hairier. And those sitting there complaining and jumping up and down, oh, don't you worry, we're just getting started. The thing is, and I keep telling people, never have fear and never have doubt. That's why I keep going to this drop here. We are in control. Do you trust the US military? Do you trust the chain of command? Have faith. We are in control. Please get that into your heads. This is not a game. We're actually, what does Q says? We are fighting for life. We are fighting for good. That's what we got to get. It's not all the, you know, the woo-woo and the ha-ha and the... No. You got to forget about that garbage. Now it's time to buckle up. Now it's time for us to get real. Because think about this. Israel's been behind a lot of false flag events. Like I said about 9/11, the dancing Israelis. Remember that little video I showed you the other day? All the other false flags as well. And it's a way of bringing in that narrative. Ask yourself why every other president except President Trump has participated in this war. Like, you know, as in getting involved with Israel and going and bombing Iran. Ask yourself why. It's pretty clear that these are controlled military operations taking place, and we must trust the US military, the chain of command, the alliance that have got this. Now, we're in psychological operations. We're in psychological warfare. And this is part of it. We're literally in it. Now, you've got to watch that movie, Wag the Dog. That's psychological operations as well, psychological warfare. If you watch Wag the Dog, it's about a war that's not really happening, but they've staged it so people believe it. Now, President Trump has spoken in the past about, it's like a demolition site. Well, hasn't anyone thought about that? That maybe this is a way of bringing down deep state assets in a very organic way. Does it make sense now? So how do you think you're going to bring down the Mossad, all these nefarious assets in Israel? You've got to stage a war, don't you? And it's got to be a controlled event. And that's exactly what you're witnessing right now. That's what people got to get. This is done by design. And are we expecting more false flags? Oh, yes. They're just getting started. Don't you worry about that. Q has told us that there's going to be false flag events, so please be aware of it. Now, psychological military history operations have been going on throughout history. It's not something new. I want to play a video on psychological military, operations throughout history to give you an understanding, comprehension about what their purpose is. Have a listen, please.
Psychological warfare, also known as Psywar, is the use of psychological tactics and methods to influence the perceptions, emotions, attitudes, and behaviors of an enemy. The aim of psychological warfare is to weaken the opponent's will to fight and ultimately defeat them without even resorting to military force. The methods used in psychological warfare can range from propaganda and misinformation to scare tactics and psychological manipulation. Despite being perceived as a contemporary development, psychological warfare actually has roots dating back to ancient times, with evidence of its use appearing in various civilizations, such as the Greeks, Romans, and Persians. In ancient Greece, the art of rhetoric was used as a form of psychological warfare, with orators using their skills to sway public opinion and influence decision-making. The famous Greek philosopher Aristotle wrote extensively on the subject, outlining the techniques and strategies that could be used to manipulate public opinion. In ancient Rome, psychological warfare was often used in military campaigns, with the goal of undermining the enemy's will to fight. Julius Caesar famously used psychological tactics, such as spreading false rumors about his strength and military prowess, to intimidate his opponents and secure victories on the battlefield. In the Persian Empire, psychological warfare was used in diplomacy, with ambassadors and emissaries using rhetoric and other persuasive techniques to gain advantages in negotiations and international relations. Fast forward to the 20th century, psychological warfare methods became crucial in military and political strategies, with both world wars serving as major theaters for the use of these methods. The use of propaganda and psychological operations was widespread during both world wars, with both sides using various media to shape public opinion and undermine enemy morale. The rise of mass media, such as newspapers, radio, and later television, made it possible to reach a large audience with a single message and helped to further enhance the impact of psychological warfare. In the post-World War II era, psychological warfare continued to evolve, particularly during the Cold War. The US and the Soviet Union engaged in a battle for global influence and superiority, using various psychological methods, such as propaganda, disinformation, and psychological operations, to sway public opinion and undermine the adversary's political and military power. Psychological warfare methods are usually referred to as psychological operations, or psyops, especially within the US military. Psychological operations specifically focus on the dissemination of information and ideas to influence the perceptions and attitudes of a target audience. As such, they can be overt or covert. Overt psychological operations are also known as white psychological operations. These involve the dissemination of truthful and transparent information. The goal of white psyops is to build trust and credibility with the target audience, both domestically and internationally. This type of psychological operation is often used to communicate official government messages, such as updates on military operations or humanitarian aid information during conflict or disaster scenarios. White psyops are distinguishable from other forms of psychological operations as they do not involve any deceptive or misleading information and are intended to be open and transparent to the target audience. Covert psychological operations are often considered controversial due to their deceptive and untraceable nature. Gray psyops use misinformation or partial truths to sow confusion and doubt, while black psyops are used to discredit an adversary using false propaganda or write out misinformation. Operation Mockingbird was a notable example of the use of psychological operations by the US government during the Cold War. Launched by the Central Intelligence Agency in the 1950s, Operation Mockingbird aimed to influence and control media content in the US and around the world to promote favorable views of the government and its policies. The operation involved the recruitment of journalists, editors, and media executives who would then produce and disseminate information that was favorable to the government. Despite its controversial nature, Operation Mockingbird is considered one of the largest and most effective psychological operations in American history. In the 21st century, psychological warfare continues to be used in military and political contexts, with new technologies, such as social media and the internet, providing new tools for the dissemination of information and ideas. As global conflicts evolve and new technologies emerge, the role of psychological warfare is likely to remain a significant factor in shaping the outcome of future conflicts. What do you think? Let us know in the comments below if you would like to see more videos on psychological warfare.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Psychological warfare is real. It exists. It is real. Right? Now, for example, this article right here, Iranian reveals why Islamic rulers built no shelters. So you know what, we've got bomb shelters and all that for airstrikes. Like, no, they don't have it. They've got a culture of martyrdom. So in other words, you know, they're going to sit there, and if they get hit, they get hit. And think about this. As I said before, you had Netanyahu that was going out on TV and he was saying to people, oh, you know, leave your military bases. And as I said, ask yourself why. In order to see where the military bases are. They didn't fall for it. They didn't fall for it at all, ladies and gentlemen. They didn't fall for it. Okay? And they certainly not falling for any of the garbage that Netanyahu's peddling. Okay? At all. They're certainly not. I'm just trying to find this part in the article where it does mention it. The Israeli military which sent out an evacuation order for all civilians to leave military sites. Right? So what they tried to do was get the people of Iran scared to basically find out where the military sites of Iran are. And that was done by design. How are we supposed to know where a military site is? Can you see exactly how they operate? And that's psychological warfare. It literally is. Now, Netanyahu has been deploying psychological warfare, and he does it, how can I say, in a very cunning way. He's a very cunning man. Okay? And he's been going out there and he's been using the tactic of, using the mainstream media like Brett Bayer. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. You know who Brett Bayer is? This guy right here. The one that's been with Trump on, you know, he's been interviewed and all that. Did you know that Brett Bayer, no, he's not good. He's not good at all. Okay, Fox News, think about why Tucker left. They ain't good. And neither is Brett Bayer. All right, I'll show you why. But anyway, he's brought on Netanyahu and he's given Netanyahu a platform to be able to go out there and reach the people of Iran. That was cunning. And he's saying, and think about this, the questions that Brett Bayer is asking, or he's saying, what would you say, what message would you give to the Iran supreme leader and the Iranian people? He's giving him a platform to be able to use his psychological warfare on him. Number one, he tells the Iranian supreme leader, there's no dealing with you, you're going to go down. But then he goes and turns around to the Iranian people and says, why don't you turn against them? Turn against that oppressive regime. And that's the psychological warfare that's being deployed right now. Let's have a listen.
Mr. Prime Minister, very last thing. I asked you how long this may last. You said it's up to the Iranians. If you had the opportunity, and you do now, to speak directly to the supreme leader and to speak directly to the Iranian people, what are those two messages you'll say?
Well, the Iranian dictator, really. He's a dictator.
There you go. So he's already planted the seed as the Iranian supreme leader calling him a dictator. Where the Iranian supreme leader protects his people, he doesn't go after civilian targets like he did. He went after civilian targets in Iran. It goes against the supreme leader's belief systems, the Quran, all that they do this sort of thing. Now, he's trying to make him look like the dictator where he was the aggressor to begin with in the first place. And then he turns around to the Iranian people and acts like he cares about them.
He's a tyrant. He has sent us a message calling just about every day for the death of Israel, the destruction of Israel and America.
That's a load of garbage because they were peaceful, they were left alone. No, they weren't doing that. And that's the thing, that this whole thing, you got to remember, there are those fanatics, the ones that go out there and burn the American flag and all that. Who do you think's planted these people? Who do you think are the ones that plant these people at these protests, at all these? They get their own. Don't think the Mossad don't use psychological warfare. They specialise in it. And they put people there and they do death to America, this, that, the other. They do all these things. Then it makes everybody else look bad. And by coincidence, it happens to have the mainstream media playing this as well. This is all psychological operations, psychological warfare.
But the death of Israel. So my answer to him is with action, not with words.
So there you go. So in other words, he's justifying that his actions. Now, he wants to go and kill the Khamenei, the Ayatollah, the supreme leader. And President Trump has turned around and said, don't do it. Don't do it. And let's have a listen.
But to the people of Iran, I say you're great people.
Here we go. To the people of Iran, you're great people. Because what he's trying to do is use psychological manipulation. And that's what they do, ladies and gentlemen. They use psychological manipulation. They do these psyops to be able to overthrow regimes and, governments. So, for example, let's talk about what happened with Gaddafi. They tried to paint Gaddafi into a bad light where he cared about his people. He looked after his people. And then they sent in the jackals from NATO to clean him up. But do you see what they do is they use psychological manipulation. And this is the thing. This is another future-proof past because he's done it in the past, and I've shown you that, ladies and gentlemen.
You're people of great talent and genius. You have been usurped by this tyranny that has robbed you of hope, has robbed you of a good life. You know, I speak to the Iranian people directly. I don't know if you know this, Brett. I do these videos. I get millions and millions of responses.
You're a biggest bullshit artist you could ever find. You've seen the garbage that he said in the past. Oh, yes, we're still waiting to find those weapons of mass destruction that Saddam Hussein had, Mr. Netanyahu. And all the other things that you've done. We're still waiting, you know. Well, don't you worry. That's all going to come very soon out into the light. Now, ask yourself this question. And I've said this over and over again. I'm going to say it again. These are controlled military operations. You know what we look for is comms to confirm that. That's why when President Trump keeps telling us about that day of October the 7th, why does he keep repeating it? Because, ladies and gentlemen, October 7 means 17. That's what it means. And we know that is definitely the calling card of the whiteouts. October is the 10th month and the 7th day. 10 plus 7 equals 17, which equals Q. That is how we get comms. I want people to get it. That's how we get comms. And confirmation that these are controlled military operations. Now, as Q says, Q drop 521, not everything is going to be clean. We're at war. It needs to be done this way. There is no other way. And as Q says as well, that the only way is the military. That's who's doing all these things. Who's doing these controlled military operations. Even the time when President Trump was supposedly, you know, not president, and Biden, we know that was all fake. We know there were controlled military operations taking place at the border. Otherwise, it would have been overrun with millions and millions of these supposed criminals.
And they say, Viva Israel, bravo Israel, free us from this tyranny. And I say to them, your hour of freedom is near. Rise up, be free.
Yeah, see, he's trying to manipulate like he's done in the past. He's a master manipulator, and he's been shown. Now, do you think it's a coincidence that Mr. Bayer got him on his show? No, ladies and gentlemen. Have a look at this. Meet Mr. Bayer. Oh, I got my COVID vax. He was pushing it back in the day. Don't you worry about that. Vaccinated and ready to go. That's Brett Bayer, right there, Brett Bayer. It was smooth. The nurses said they'll see the 1,000 DC residents today at this one location. So that person right there, Mr. Bayer, has been going around and making out that this is a great thing to do. How many people did he convince to take the poison, ladies and gentlemen? Think about that one before you sit there and we praise Bayer and all the rest of them. I've been saying about Elon and I was right again. FCB's been right about everything. I've been bringing out these fools. There we go. Look at that. I got my COVID vax. Well, do you think he's not in bed with, No. He's been exposed. Where is the coercion? I posted the photo. There's no force or threat. You can unfollow me because apparently a lot of the conservatives went against him for being vaxxed. Not a very good thing, is it, Mr. Breyer? I promise you I had a real shot. No conspiracy here. Thanks. Have a good weekend. Do you like Brett Bayer now? I'm sure you don't. After all, he was going out there and preaching about how good the vax was. And then you're going to believe that fool when he's bringing out Mr. Netanyahu, giving him a platform to speak. Ask yourself the question, do you think President Trump is stupid? He knows what he's doing. Don't you worry about that one. He knows. And that's what I'm saying. You think about it. Those that he associates with, I mean, he's been doing the interview with Brett Baer. That's what I'm saying. Those are close to him. Keep your friends close, your enemies closer. And I was right about Musk again. You know what I mean? When others were saying all these nasty things about me because I was against Musk, and I've been proven all right, or that everyone, if they listen to FCB, they'll be a lot better and a lot happier. Put it that way. Now, what is Netanyahu doing? He's appealing to the American people. Think about this. He would have plugged his little, speech with Trump. We've got to go and fight against Iran. We've got to be united. Stephen Bannon has been going, no, he shouldn't do that. Stephen Bannon's been right as well, by the way. Tucker Carlson, right again. And there's many that have been basically right. Now, we know that Rubio is a bad seed. We know that Hegseth is all for the state of Israel, just like Rubio is, and just like all these others. Now, what Mr. Netanyahu is doing on this program is saying that, remember that thing about how they said Iranians were going to assassinate President Trump? You remember that, right? You remember that thing? Well, wasn't that being revisited? I mean, don't you find it odd that, that thing about Iran, they sent someone from Iran to assassinate President Trump? You remember that, right? Just give me a thumbs up in the chat. You remember that? Well, why hasn't it come out? Why hasn't it come out again? I mean, shouldn't the FBI or the CIA or the whatever they are, DOJ, look into it? No, everything's sort of forgotten about. You know why? Because you don't realise that these are all false flag events. Because realistically speaking, how do you manipulate, say, somebody? You stage a false flag event. Like you've been seeing. False flags are done to win the hearts and mind of people. Now, 9/11 was a big one. Because guess what? We need people we need their support, because after all, the taxpayers paying for it all, to go over to Afghanistan and whoop some ass, right? Because of the poppies there. Because, they got a shitload of poppies there. We all know what that is. That's the opium, right? So how do we go over there and do that business? Well, you got to go and, obviously, look, stage this whole event, and you got to win the hearts and the mind of the masses. How do you do that? Well, you bring down those towers. And we know that who was there? The dancing Israelis. Remember the dancing Israelis? They were there dancing away, laughing it up. They were there taking film at the time. How did they know at that particular time to be at that particular place and to take video? Because the Mossad were involved. It's been an ongoing thing. So then guess what? They got to win the hearts of the mind, so they create these little false flags. And that's a little psyops as well, because it's really a psychological, warfare that's been put on people. And then everybody, go over there and kick some ass. Go over there. And what are they doing? They're manipulated. The leaders, the Congress people, all greased off by AIPAC and all that. And they all go over there and they do what they have to do. Military go there. They're the pawns. Oh, yes. And did you notice that also as well that before anything like this happens, certain people get rich? Do you know what happens? They all of a sudden decide to go and invest in defense we say, those that supply weapons like Lockheed Martin, Planty, and all these others, right? Defense contractors and all that. Yeah, let's go invest. That's called insider trading. And every time there's a catastrophe, do you know that there's obviously the politicians and all the rest of these degenerates that they make a shitload of money. Oh, yes. While we're the ones suffering, also they send our boys and girls of the military to go over there and kill themselves. And they're sitting there laughing all about it. How does that make you feel? That we've all been psychologically manipulated, played for a bunch of fools, controlled. And then we're hating somebody in some godforsaken village in Iraq that we don't even know. They're innocent people, children, women. No, they're a target. Let's go and play Space Invaders. Let's bring the drones over and let's go and decimate them. And do you know the thing is that these people that fly these drones, have you seen what they're in? They're in air-conditioned cubicles. They're so detached from it. To them, it's like a computer game. But there's no computer game. It's actually real, and they are killing real people. That's how they sit there, they drink their Cokes, their nice frozen Coca-Colas and all that sort of stuff while scoffing down a hamburger. And they're sitting there playing these games, and they think it's a game. Like, you know what I mean? But realistically speaking, it's not a bloody game. They're killing children. And then you got, oh yes, WikiLeaks that released it all on Obama and all these others that were doing all these sort of thing. And then guess what? They went after Julian Assange. You know what Julian Assange went through? Hell. And this is all part of these psychological operations, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, think about it. We watched the TV. I remember back in the day of Iraq, we used to watch it. Everyone's sitting there like cheering on like they're watching the football. How sickening is that? You go and get them, boys. You go and knock them down. Did you know you're killing innocent people? And then you think about this. The military are the ones that have to live with it. So you've got the veterans that have got psychological issues because they're the ones that have to live with this thing for the rest of their lives. And then they come back to their country and they get treated like a bunch of lepers. How sickening is that? It really is a sorry state of affairs that we're living in. And then what do you think they're using psychological warfare only on us? No. They're using psychological warfare on their military as well. Oh, you go there and you kick some ass. Yeah, by the way, down, quite a few Red Bulls and you'll be fine. Just go and kick some ass. Yay. Then you got the ones that are going around with the drones, sitting around in their cubicles, nice and air-conditioned cubicles. It's sick. It is a sick, sorry state of affairs. And then you think about it, how easy is it for them? Because they're not there physically with a gun to a child's head or a mother or a family. No, it's all there in the cubicle like a game. Bombs away. That's where your target is. Don't even think about it. No, it's okay. And this is what needs to stop. Now, you think about what President Trump is doing. He's putting an end to this. Because you know what? The state of Israel has been manipulating the US, and not just the US, the Western world for a long time. And not just the state of Israel. You know what I mean? They're all degenerate puppets. But there's always the ones that pull the strings up on the higher, shall we say, scales. And this is you think about it. President Trump by him saying, no, let him fight it out. Have you ever heard another president say that? Have you ever heard another leader say it? He knows what he's doing. That's why I'm saying those that go around and say all these nasty things about President Trump, think again. You're not thinking straight. You're not seeing the clearer picture. You're not seeing the bigger picture as to what he's doing. We see it. We know what's the take. We know that what he's doing is basically he's got to let things play out. Now, yes, these are controlled military operations. This is all necessary. And as I said, in the guise of bringing down deep state assets. Remember when we used to say, 17 buildings, where do you get that crap from? That's the other bullshit. Don't listen to the hearsay. That's another psychological bullshit that goes around the place. Because number one, hearsay, fear porn, okay, misinformation is all under psyops. And we're being psyoped here as well. That's what I'm saying. Don't listen to the garbage. Facts, evidence, and receipts. You know you're going to get it straight. Don't listen to the garbage that's out there. There's a lot of garbage going out there. Fear porn, this. Oh, the deep state's in control, that. If the deep state had been in control, we all would have been screwed by now. Okay? That's the reality. Now, as I said, stop listening to the hearsay. Hearsay is basically the garbage that's spread out there. We're not into hearsay. We're not into the psyops. We certainly aren't going to partake in that. We are the observers. We look at things at a logical standpoint, and we come to logical conclusions based on facts, evidence, and receipts. That's what we do here. Okay, we analyze. We use our logic. Now, when we look at these photos, what does that invoke in you? Have a look at that photo. It upsets you. It invokes your emotion. We know what we're fighting for is the children, right? Now think about this. Israel, we do not target civilians. Do you think we're the only ones looking at this picture? Do you think that other people are looking at it? And think about what they think about Israel right now. You think it's all been done by design? You are correct. It is being done by design. Because this is the thing. How do you bring out the filth? How do you bring out all the things to do with Epstein Island that's connected to State of Israel through the Mossad? How do you bring out all the 9/11 stuff that is connected to the Mossad, to the State of Israel? How do you bring out all the other things that is connected over there? Well, you put a bad taste in their mouths, don't you? And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a shock treatment for the masses. This is exactly what it's designed to do. And this is also part of psychological operations. For all we know, this is all controlled and designed to what? Invoke emotion. Get people upset. Get them angry at Israel. And this is the thing, when you already put a bad taste in their mouths about the State of Israel, not the people, please. The people have been manipulated. I've shown you that the people in the State of Israel have been used as a bunch of human shields as well. The Mossad's in the middle, the Department of Defense, and surrounded by all the civilians. They've been used as well without them even knowing about it. They don't realise it, but I pray that they do watch a show like this to see that I am somebody that cares about them as well. That I'm not somebody, we've got to get rid of these labels, the anti-Semite label. Get rid of it. We're about unification. We're about, transparency. We're about empowerment. That's what we're about. I pray that they are watching me, these people that are from the State of Israel, that are Israeli, and can see exactly what their governments have been up to. I hope. Because, you know, I'm basing everything on facts and some receipts, and I'm hoping that they could see that why the Mossad, the shall we say, those deep state assets planted themselves deep in the heart, surrounded by civilians, because they're using them as a human shield. And it's about time that they realised it. It's about time that they started waking up. And not only them, but also, ladies and gentlemen, the people. Because there are people out there that's still going on about, oh, yeah, go Israel, go and bomb the shit out of Iran. They're still going on with that same rhetoric. They're still going on thinking that, the state of Israel are fantastic and all this sort of thing. And they forget about, what does President Trump says? America first. Because if America falls, we all fall. That's the reality of it, because we're all connected. Now, as I said, Brett Baer has given him a nice platform to go around and speak. Do you think President Trump doesn't know? A master strategist just like him. He's sitting back and he's watching who's doing what. Remember, this is the end game. Leaving Israel for last, as Q says. We know that. Let's go to Q drop 916. Right? When we say leaving Israel for last. And we've got to realize there's a reason and a rhyme for it, because everything is pointing in that direction. Q drop 916. We are saving Israel for last. Very specific reason, not mentioned a single time. Only once is that being mentioned. Why? Because all of it is pointing in that direction over there. That's why we haven't got the Epstein files. That's why we still haven't got CD 971 of the JFK files. Because it all points in that direction, because you remember what JFK was against Israel, future proves past, was against Israel having nuclear weapons. You remember that. And remember Dimona. And the French knew about it. Israel knew about it. And they knew how there was, under the ground, they were doing the enrichment. And you see what Israel's doing now? So you got, Israel was doing it back in the day, where they were doing it under the ground. Who's the one that's accusing Iran of doing what they are doing? Israel's doing it. They're accusing Iran for doing exactly the same thing they did back in the day when JFK was around with Dimona, where they were enriching uranium under the ground. They were sending that inspector, but the inspector could only see the surface, the top layer. They weren't seeing what was going under the ground. And JFK sent them that telegram and said, listen, you better cut it out. Otherwise, we're pulling the pin. We're not going to support the state of Israel. And then, lo and behold, a couple of weeks after that, he got assassinated. Can you see why CD 971 hasn't come out yet? Tucker Carlson has even said it. That they're not, the JFK files, all of them have not been released. We know that the CIA have been involved, and you can bet your bottom dollar, we know that the CIA and the Mossad work together. That's fact. That's why, as Q says there, we are saving Israel for last. Because a lot of things are going to be pointing in that direction. Now think about this. When all these things come out and it points in that direction, how do you think people are going to feel? A lot of people still hurt about 9/11. Oh, don't you worry about that. It's a very sore spot. Because not only did it change, people think it was only the United States who was affected, the world was affected. We were all affected by it. And we know that that connects up in that direction. We know that, you know, when it does come out, it's going to hurt a lot of people. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? What does Q says? Pain is necessary. Pain is necessary. Because through pain comes growth and awareness. And it's time that these people became aware of the truth. Don't you think? I want to show the video again of the dancing Israelis to remind people that why we are leaving Israel for last.
It was widely reported that men had been celebrating the attack after recording the first plane strike. They were not Al-Qaeda, but they were detained.
I grabbed my binoculars and I could see the towers from my window. And this is where I'm looking. And all of a sudden, down there, I see this van park. And I see 3 guys on top of the van. And I could see that they were like happy. You know, they didn't look shocked to me. You know, they didn't look shocked.
There was a group of Israelis, some of whom later were revealed as Mossad assets, who were arrested after cheering and high-fiving and videotaping the crash of the airplanes into the World Trade Towers.
Several other men were detained after a van full of explosives was stopped outside of Manhattan.
Earlier we had heard that an FBI spokesperson said that there was a report on the George Washington Bridge, which is another facility which you folks are responsible for policing, a report that there had been a van stopped there that had explosives.
Asked this week about another sprawling investigation and the detention of 60 Israelis since September 11th, the Bush administration treated the questions like hot potatoes.
I would just refer you to the Department of Justice with it. I'm not familiar with the report.
I'm aware that some Israeli citizens have been detained. With respect to why they are being detained and the other aspects of your question, whether it's because they are in intelligence services or what they were doing, I will defer to the Department of Justice and the FBI to answer that.
On March 6, 2002, a draft report from the DEA said it may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. Despite all of this, all the Israelis were let go, without any espionage charges being filed. Fox News anchors Britt Hume and Carl Cameron would do a 4-part investigation into these allegations in December of 2001 and yield stunning results.
It has been more than 16 years since a civilian working for the Navy was charged with passing secrets to Israel. Jonathan Pollard pled guilty to conspiracy to commit espionage and is serving a life sentence. At first, Israeli leaders claimed Pollard was part of a rogue operation, but later took responsibility for his work. Now, Fox News has learned some U.S. investigators believe that there are Israelis again very much engaged in spying in and on the U.S.
Since September 11th, more than 60 Israelis have been arrested or detained, either under the new Patriot anti-terrorism law or for immigration violations. A handful of active Israeli military were among those detained, according to investigators, who say some of the detainees also failed polygraph questions when asked about alleged surveillance activities against and in the United States. Investigators suspect that the Israelis may have gathered intelligence about the attacks in advance and not shared it. A highly placed investigator said there are, quote, tie-ins, but when asked for details, he flatly refused to describe them, saying, quote, evidence linking these Israelis to 911 is classified. I cannot tell you about evidence that has been gathered. It's classified information.
Now, when the FBI investigated, it quickly unraveled to be the largest foreign spy ring ever uncovered inside the United States, the largest. Even the Soviet Union had not been spying on the United States as much as Israel has been doing. So the FBI started to round up these spies. They started to arrest them very quietly, and they were about halfway through this process of rounding up this spy ring when 9/11 happened.
Numerous classified documents obtained by Fox News indicate that even prior to September 11th, as many as 140 other Israelis had been detained or arrested in a secretive and sprawling investigation into suspected espionage by Israelis in the United States. Investigators from numerous government agencies are part of a working group that's been compiling evidence since the mid-90s. These documents detail hundreds of incidents in cities and towns across the country that investigators say, quote, may well be an organized intelligence gathering activity. The first part of the investigation focuses on Israelis who say they are art students from the University of Jerusalem and Bezalel Academy. Documents say they, quote, targeted and penetrated military bases, the DEA, FBI, and dozens of other government facilities, and even secret offices and unlisted private homes of law enforcement and intelligence personnel. The majority of those questioned, quote, stated they served in military intelligence, electronic surveillance intercept, and/or explosive ordnance units. Why would Israelis spy in and on the U.S.? A General Accounting Office investigation referred to Israel as Country A and said, quote, according to a U.S. intelligence agency, the government of Country A conducts the most aggressive espionage operation against the U.S. of any U.S. ally. The document concludes, quote, Israel possesses the resources and technical capability to achieve its collection objectives.
What about this question of advanced knowledge of what was going to happen on 9/11? How clear are investigators that some Israeli agents may have known something?
Well, it's very explosive information, obviously, and there's a great deal of evidence that they say they have collected, none of it necessarily conclusive. It's more when they put it all together. A bigger question, they say, is how could they not have known? Almost a direct quote, Brett.
It is now apparent that this intelligence ring was inside the U.S., had prior knowledge of 9/11, and had a classified role in 9/11, which officials refused to discuss. It was also able to penetrate U.S. intelligence agencies and secret offices, yet all were released. The men who were detained due to the report they were taping the first plane crash and then celebrating and joking about it actually went on television and admitted it was their job to record the attack.
And at that point, we were taken for another round of questioning, this time related to our allegedly being members of Mossad. The fact of the matter is, we are coming from a country that experiences terror daily. Our purpose was to document the event.
How could they have known about the attack? And who sent them to document it? The evidence points to a large intelligence network inside the United States that had teams on the ground, such as the ones recording the attack, and electronic surveillance teams gathering information.
And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's the thing. I mean, it's much bigger than what you can possibly imagine. Now, you know that we go by the facts and some receipts. Now, that's all documented. And I suggest everybody does the same. We don't sit there and play this game of, I heard this and I heard that. Hearsay. Steer away from it, because that's exactly what we call conspiracy theorists. Let's stop the I've heard this and I've heard that. Facts, evidence, and receipts. Hopefully that people that watch this show know that we stand by facts, evidence, and receipts. There is too much, shall we say, clickbait, hearsay, things that are based on thin air. The point of this show is to be able to even red pill somebody based on the facts and some receipts that's indisputable. That's what we're trying to do here. We don't work with this and that and I heard this and I heard that. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get anywhere at all. Do you stick to the facts and some receipts? That's one thing that I learned as an investigative journalist. That you stick with the facts and some receipts, that you check everything. You dot your I's and you cross your T's as best as you can. And then you cross-reference things to make sure that it is factual as well. Because what I'm trying to do is put the word truth back into the movement. Because the word truth has been tarnished. And you know that in this movement, there's a lot of misinformation, and those that create the disinformation spreads this disinformation, becomes misinformation. And those thinking that I heard it from here and I heard it from there. And it ends up being, as I said, they're not based on facts. We don't sit there and say, oh, you know, blue beam and this and that and the other. No. You can't prove it. You can't prove it without a doubt. You just cannot. Can you prove that blue beam was used on 9/11? Let's not kid ourselves. It's like proving the RV is real, which we know it's all a bunch of, shall we say, hogwash. Don't you worry, I'm bringing it all on the Kraken, because the truth needs to be known and need to clear up some things. Now, as I said, we are in psychological warfare. Now, in psychological warfare, there is deception. And in warfare, like these, shall we say, the warfare that's going on in between Israel and Iran, you think Israel is the only one using deception? So is Iran. In fact, they think that Israel is smart. No. Iran outdoes Israel with decoy blitz. In other words, they use decoys. Okay? He knows what he's doing. Iran may have implemented a deception operation along with precautions, and Israel may have bombed different facilities, retired General Fari Erenel, professor at Istanbul University, tells Sputnik. The thing is, that's why you had Netanyahu appealing to the masses in Iran and saying, hey, leave the military bases. Why? Because they're watching with their satellites and they can see where they're coming from. Do you see? Because they need like the telltale sign as to where these military bases are. And Iran have got their cards close to their chest. Right. The other thing is, Iranian decoys fooled the Israelis. Notice how no secondary explosions were observed upon impact. Tweeted Tehran University Mohammed Marandi, sharing footage of apparent Israeli strikes on false missiles and radar sites. So the targets that they obviously leak out there is, it's all decoys done by design. Fake radars. Press TV explained that the Iran uses radar decoys emitting fake signals. Israeli drones mistook them for real targets, wrongly believing radar defenses were destroyed. This led to Israeli jets deeper into Iranian airspace. 3 F-35s allegedly were downed. Nuclear sites largely unscathed. And I've been saying it, that this is their thing. Do you think for a moment that they would put the real nuclear sites out there for Israeli to... No. This is what I want people to get. We're in psychological warfare. And in psychological warfare, you need to deploy these kind of decoys. And that's exactly what they've done. So Israeli hit Natanz and Fordo's nuclear sites despite surface damage, and Natanz, Iran's core enrichment facility, stayed intact. All right, so in other words, it's all decoys out there. They think they're hitting targets, but this is all part of the art of war, is deception as well. Now, do you think for a moment that those people that are part of the Iran military don't read the art of war? Think again. Putin reads it, Trump reads it, and I can tell you right now, they read it as well. All right? That's what you've got to realize, ladies and gentlemen. that what you are witnessing is all being done by design. Israelis' failure means Bibi's end, or Israel's failure means Bibi's end. Bibi's end is coming very soon. If the Israeli attack is ineffective as a result of the deception operation implemented by Iran, and no results are achieved, Netanyahu and his government may come to an end. There you go. Another thing is the US taxpayer says their money is being wasted. Because remember, they've been funding the state of Israel and their weapons. It says right here that I was personally involved. A gentleman known by the name of Mike Mahajovic was personally involved in the decoy business as somebody that was creating decoys. And they do use decoys in the military. And I can say with high confidence that the Iranians have developed their own approach, often using dummy trucks with missile-like shells. It's not complicated, but it does not require attention to detail, as the decoy must resemble the real object as closely as possible. These are two main challenges: the visual aspect of the electromagnetic signature. The visual issue is one hurdle, but it becomes even more complicated when the electromagnetic signature is considered. In any case, there are specific details that need to be attended to in order to distinguish between the real objects and the decoy or decoys. In short, I have no doubt that the Iranians have planned for this kind of scenario. Determining the exact level of sophistication is a difficult question. But having some knowledge of how they operate, I can confidently say that more than 3/4 of the videos circulating are actually hits on their decoys. There you go. And there we are. So there is psychological operations taking place left, right, and center. And those that think that Iran has a shall we say, a military that's not as strong, think again. You're sadly mistaken. Like, with North Korea. Remember when they were launching the rockets? And the rockets were going, pear shape into the drink, smashing up, all that sort of stuff. That was because people are distracted looking over there and not what was really going on, where the real testing was going on. It's exactly what they've been saying about, shall we say, Area 51. You heard correctly. Area 51, ladies and gentlemen. Because people were looking over there and not looking at other places where they should have been looking. Everyone's been distracted by Area 51 rather than looking at, is there anywhere else where they've been doing what they've been doing? Let's have a look at this thing right here, ladies and gentlemen. Where is it? Let's bring this article up. And this is all part of psychological warfare too. Pentagon secretly planted Area 51 UFO conspiracy theory to hide classified weapons program. Some of the most prevalent UFO conspiracy theories, including about aliens being housed at Area 51 in Nevada, were fueled by Pentagon in an attempt to provide cover for secret weapons programs. And Q has told us that there are space programs that exist outside the public domain. Now, what are people doing? They're drawn to there like a magnet. Let's go down to Rachel. Let's go down there and see that little UFO that's hanging off a crane. Let's go and buy all that little souvenirs. Let's go and buy the little green mask to put on our faces. Let's go out there with our telescope and hopefully we see a UFO. And then they've got to put on this rhetoric of, that you cross over any military base, you're going to be stopped by the military, aren't you? Just like you were over there. Now, apparently, as I said, that they did this done by design. And that the CIA and all that sort of thing, they're involved in this. Right? But then, shall we say, extraterrestrial beings real? Well, we know that Admiral Byrd did Operation High Jump. Went over the wall and he saw continents. You want to call them extraterritorials? Well, they're outside our realm, so to speak. Why can't anybody be allowed to fly over Antarctica or go anywhere near there? What is there? That's the thing. We've been gaslit, lied to, manipulated, controlled through religion, which is division, through the way we've, the construct, the matrix that we've been living in, done by design. Divided, we are weak. Divided in so many different ways, you're easily controlled. You've seen how they were able to divide us using, as I said, look at the Middle East. That's all division. It's all destabilization done by design. Because you think about it, what are these people doing? They're not focusing on uniting and finding out who the real enemy is. No. Keep them divided and you keep them fighting amongst each other, and they're too busy doing that to see who's really the one that's pulling the strings from the left and the right. And this is the thing, we don't really know. I mean, we could sit here and say this and that and the other. We need transparency. We need to see what's really going on. We need that. Now, we've had such a huge leap, shall we say, into artificial intelligence. All of a sudden, we've got robot dogs. I mean, you saw them in the parade the other day walking around. You got all these other robots and all that, Optimus, and China's got a shitload of them. We're driving autonomous cars. The other thing is as well, they've been saying that they've got these, shall we say, they call them spaceships that are created by human beings, which, if you reverse engineer something, I'm sure you can create something. The question is that where did it come from? How did they reverse engineering it from? How is it so, shall we say, we went from point A to point B so quickly? Before, we used to watch these shows on TV like iRobot with Will Smith, and we saw those robots that look like Optimus, those cars that have been driving around the place that looks exactly what Elon's got. And people would sit there and say, oh yeah, that's just the movies. And then lo and behold, we got them now. We got all of these new technologies, and what they're showing us to what is exactly real are two different things. And this is the thing, our government has been keeping us, remember, steering the mind, controlled. So we don't know what's what. What's real? What is a psyop? Manipulation? Realistically speaking, ladies and gentlemen, all I can say is this: have an open mind. This is the only way you're going to get through this, is by having an open mind. Let go, let God, and see what resonates with you. When the truth does come out, it will resonate. You will know it to be true. It will resonate with your intuition. That's why I say do your inner work. When you do your inner work, you know that you're connected with your intuition, which is through God, Source. and you're connected to the universal mind. You will know what is true. You will know. The only way through this, as I said, open mind. You're going to have to let go of a lot of things when they start coming our way and realizing that you've been lied to. The only thing you can count on is that God is, God always wins and God will always be there. God is the creator and God controls everything. That's all that we know for sure. Religion has been manipulated, we know that. That's proven. Religion is division. Divided, we are weak. Think about it. Divided, you're controlled. Now, what does Q says in the last drop? Knowledge is power. And it's about obtaining knowledge so then you can get that empowerment. Because, there are so many things that are happening right now. And, and that's the thing. I mean, there's so much of this weirdness that is going on in this world that you just got to develop a filter. You really do. Otherwise, you will drive yourself insane with the amount of whatever is out there. And that's why what we do here is we stand by the facts and some receipts because we know they're solid. When you step on something, you want it to be concrete. You want it to be solid. You don't want to step on something and it collapses. And that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, we've been stepping on cardboard. We've been lied to, we've been manipulated. And not only in the outside world, but also here as well. And that's what I'm saying. Don't go by hearsay. Don't go by this person said this and this person said that. No. Facts, evidence, and receipts. That's what you go by. Now, we are in a psychological warfare right now. You've seen that even in the world today, that we've got all these riots going on. That's another future proves past. You saw the riots that took place in LA. Now, everybody's like, yeah, that's old news. And then we had the one in Seattle that's going on, Antifa again. And then we've got all these other things, just all this weirdness all around the world. Then we've got all these reveals, shall we say, about this person is young and they've got some sort of rare cancer or problems with their health. And it's like, can they just spit it out there already? Can they just be honest? Can they just tell the people what's really going on? But, it's just like this little drip, 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 drip. And it's like, you know what? Enough of the drip. Isn't it about time that they really started getting real and showing people what's really been going on? Look, you've been seeing, this rare cancer or this heart attacks, and they're always younger, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. Then, look at this. You got all this rhetoric going. Trump administration no longer recommends COVID vaccine for healthy kids and healthy pregnant women. What about the rest? And it just continues. Look at this. Diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer at 25. Then Moderna's new COVID vaccine, next spike, approved by FDA. Well, hold on a minute. I thought the FDA was taken over by Trump's team. Maybe it's to expose the FDA. And this is the thing. That FDA, that whole system was created by the deep state, the cabal, and it probably needs to be brought down. And remember, it's things have got to be obviously shown to the masses. Now, what we need to see is how people reacting to these articles. How are they reacting to it? Let's have a look. Yes, it's only for the idiots, academocrats. There you go. Meaning people never needed it unless they fit a specific pathology. You would have to be crazy. You would have to be crazy to take any of this crap at this point. Now think about this. That is what the survey says. That's exactly what people are saying now. Do you remember before that it was the opposite? We were called conspiracy theorists. Now, no, everything is swung in the other direction. And then, oh yeah, this one here, even here, let's have a look what they say about Mr. Duck Destiny. Okay, yeah, he will be missed. Yeah, vaccinated. There you go. So you're seeing that people are obviously questioning things. My bizarre tongue symptom that turned out to be stage 4 cancer. What does the survey said? Yeah, I said jabbed. You know what I mean? Yeah, then you got some others that say some, you know, obviously some unsavory things, but you get the gist. Look at this. Clot shot version 2. That's me again. I don't care anymore, ladies and gentlemen, and neither should you. You should go out there and look at that. And look at that. Persistent bastards, aren't they? You'd have to be flat out retarded to take a COVID vax at this point. So there are people that are calling the garbage out there, and it's on and on and it's on and on. Now, Cheryl Atkinson, the one that also interviews Trump, has been calling it out. Then you got TikTok star, cancer, battle, dead at 19. What does the survey say? Yeah, I said jabbed. Okay. Yeah, there we go. The jibby jabber there as well. Vaxxed and boosted. You can see, ladies and gentlemen, that people have had enough of the garbage. And it's, there we go. Robert Jr. apparently brought on, what's his name? What's that guy's name? Just chuck it in the chat, guys. I know what his name is. Where is he? Maloney, that's it. Robert Malone. Robert Malone. He's brought him on board. That's it. Want a COVID vax? It's going to cost you $200. Is that going to deter any of these idiots? Let's hope so. But you can see, that's what I'm saying. So we're seeing this thing, and that's also part of the psychological, shall we say, warfare that we're in, because the masses are responding, and obviously the whiteouts are watching and they're saying, well, they're going against it. Hallelujah. You know what I mean? They're actually going against it. Thank God for that. And you're seeing more and more of this going on, which is good because you want to see people reciprocating, waking up, calling it out. But let's not kid ourselves. We are in psychological warfare, and there is so much of these things going on. Like, say, what about Ukraine and Russia? No, don't worry about that. That's still going on. China, yeah. North Korea, yeah. No, they apparently just launched their Navy ship that they screwed up, which we know is a bunch of garbage. And it's just, we're being fatigued with the amount of news out there. Now, remember, people used to follow the stars. You know what Q says. There'll be a day when they won't follow the stars, where they won't give a damn anymore. Okay, well, people are basically saying, who cares? So these stars are going out there and they're, saying they're having a wedding or they're this or they're that. And people just had enough and they're saying, who gives a shit? And you know what? Good on them. Because at the end of the day, people got to realize that these stars were there for a reason. Number one, right, they sold themselves out. They sold out humanity, all right? And they were behind committing atrocities. But also, what was their main goal? Keeping us distracted. When we're distracted, we're in a state of entertainment. When we're entertained, our mind is in containment mode, right? So we're preoccupied. Sports. Why do sports stars get paid a lot of money? It's to do with keeping us preoccupied, busy, entertained. Enter means to obviously entertain means to contain, and ment in Latin means the mind. That's what it means. And as I said, you know, like these entertainers are being done away with very, very, you know, shall we say, you know, they've done away with them slowly. Rob Stewart apparently is devastated because he's had to cancel concerts. And we know that Rod Stewart was a bad seed anyway. We know that Bruce Springsteen was bad as well. And apparently they're not doing too well. And a lot of these people aren't doing too well. Now, remember we were speaking about good old Brett Bayer? And we know that Brett Bayer was one of these people pushing the jab. Yeah, you know that one, right? Yeah, no, let's bring that up again. Okay, yeah, no. You remember that? Brett Bayer, no good, right? He was out there pushing the good old poison. Now, Brett Bayer, they made him out there go and do a song and dance. Have a listen to this crap. We'll have a laugh at his expense.
Hip, I hop, you don't stop. I rock it to the bang, bang, boogie. So up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat. Skiddly-bop, scoop-bop, Scooby-Doo. That's right, America, we love you. And we rock and roll to the summer sun. We can rock to 101 years old. I don't mean to brag, I don't mean to boast, but I like hot butter on my breakfast toast. Rock it out, baby bubba. Baby bubba to the boogie to bang, bang, the boogie to the beat. Heat so unique. Come on, everybody, dance your feet. Walk on labor, dark afternoon. Reporter stopped me for an interview. She said she's heard stories and she's heard babes. Vicious on the mic and the...
Yeah, if you call that entertainment, I'd rather listen to, and I'd rather listen to, say, the grass growing than that crap. And that's the thing. I mean, who's really doing this sort of thing? I mean, who's making them look like a bunch of fools, realistically speaking? It's obviously them, the white hats, are doing it by design. And then you're seeing all this other rhetoric. I mean, shirtless Iggy Pop. Remember Iggy Pop, the singer? Wheel him off in a coffin. Yeah, no, that means see you later. I mean, do you see how the white hats work? No, he's going to be exiting stage left in a coffin very soon. I mean, obviously, you know, the white hats give us comms in certain ways, and they're getting rid of these, shall we say, bad seeds. And they've been giving us these comms over and over again. Now, what do? I mean, oh, you look at this. Jessie J, that singer right there. You know, apparently now she's got breast cancer. Did Jessie J take the poison? What does the survey say? Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, let's keep going there. Yeah, here we go. Another pussycat doll describes her vaccine injury. There you go. The survey says she's vaxxed. Never heard of her. Okay. Yeah, okay. So you get what the first one anyway said about her being, you know, vaccine injury. You could see what's going on. I mean, look, obviously they got to get rid of these entities in a certain way. And you've been seeing that they're going with cancer and all these different array of, shall we say, illnesses. I prefer to see them hang, to be quite honest. I'm sure you would as well. I'm sure you would prefer to see justice like I would. Not to see them, oh, they're going to have cancer. Oh, no, they're going to, you know, do this or do that. No, we would like to see them hang for their crimes and see them exposed for their crimes. But you know, the thing is, the problem is this, that the mass consciousness are the ones that sit there, admire them, even worship them. And if they do that, then it's going to cause a lot of problems. And that's why they do it the way they do it. And look, I'm looking forward to the day when we see some real justice. I mean, we see that 20% that Q promises. Not this rhetoric right here. Oh, yeah. Sean Diddy Combs ex bursts into tears. Look at this. There you go. With the freak off sessions. With the baby oil. They brought that rhetoric in there. Look at that. He would force her to, and he would drug her up and have the freak off marathons. And then we've got the baby oil and all the lube over on the other side. I know, you know what? It's just so, how can I say ridiculous? It's not, I mean, it's hard not to laugh at this crap, seriously. Then you got Eva Longuera. What's she saying? Oh, crap about the ice. JZ. I mean, look, we're seeing all these characters. Yeah, even him, Tom Hanks. Why are they bringing him into the mix? Tom Hanks says he will come. We all come from checkered lives amid daughter's memoirs claiming abusive childhood. Lovely. Are they saying that good old Tom used to abuse her? Tom Hanks says we've all come from checkered lives amid daughter's memoir claiming abusive childhood. Are they actually going to bring out what he has done? Could it be a soft disclosure the way they're doing it? Let's have a look. That's a very interesting article. So apparently she's claiming that she's had an abusive childhood. What did Tom do? We know what Tom has gotten, himself involved with, but what does it say here? Let's keep rolling down. Blah, 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 blah. We all come from a checkered, crackered lives. All of us, yeah. You're crack up. You're right. Your mind is cracked and sick. That's what the problem is, Tom. Okay? And the truth needs to come out about you and your mate Wilson with that ball, right? That thing right there. That truth needs to come out. And many other things. I'm not surprised that my daughter had a wherewithal, whatever that means, as well as the curiosity, as well as I'm going to say perhaps a shoot herself in the foot kind of wherewithal in order to examine this thing that I think she was incredibly honest about. Just say, I used to do naughty stuff to children. How about that? Just bring that out. And apparently he says here, EA, whose initial stands for Elizabeth Ann, wrote about her complicated childhood marred by her parents' divorce and a mother she claimed could be emotionally and physically violent. Oh, so good old Tom used to sit back and let his wife bash his daughter up. After the parents got divorced. Okay, yeah. Now, why don't you just come out with the truth? That's my thing. I mean, wouldn't you want to see, he used to do all that naughty stuff? Let's be honest. I mean, instead of saying that his wife used to bash his child. Okay. And then you got Springsteen, the clown. Clownstein, that calls Trump treasonous while performing, and he's going around to these different performances, and he happens to go to the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Isn't that where Hitler was? Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, how ironic is that crap? Seriously, that's where Hitler's going to, no. I'm going to go there and perform and say what a treasonous prick Trump is. Is that what you're going to do, Bruce? What an idiot. Billy Joel apparently tried to commit suicide twice. Okay. And, it just goes on, and we can go on and on. I mean, look, Don Johnson was apparently smoking weed in the White House during the Carter administration. Hold on a minute. If we smoke weed anywhere, it doesn't have to be at the White House, would have been basically thrown in the back of the van into the jail. But no, because you're Don Johnson, you're cool because you're from Miami Vice. You can go and smoke a doobie with good old Jimmy Carter and get away with it. Is that what you're telling me? You know what I mean? And then you got Justin Bieber, calls himself a dad, not to be effed with, bizarre father. I mean, there's a lot of bizarre shit going on. And then talking about bizarre shit, this right here. Oh, yes. To top everything off, good old Alexander Soros, wasn't he the one that married, Huma Abedin just recently? And they had a bigwigs, hobnob, ritzy Soros wedding on No King's Day. So they decided to get married on Trump's birthday. How does that grab you? Can you see the ridiculousness of this? It's so ridiculous, it's funny. That's all you could do, sit there and laugh about it. Because if you allow this to get to you, you're going to be screwed. That's all I'm going to say. And you know what Huma Abedin and Soros, how bad they are and what they're involved with and all that sort of thing. But this is like adding injury to insult or insult to injury by, as I said, having a wedding on No King's Day, aka, the parade, the army birthday, aka President Trump's born day, and having a Soros wedding at the same time. Yeah, I wonder if they ordered pizza, Turson. Yeah, you're correct. Did they order? Hey, can I order? Yeah, is this Comet Pizza? Can we have a pizza, please? Because we don't want to eat the shit that they're serving. That's the thing. I mean, how ridiculous is this? And that's what I'm saying. These are all psychological warfare games, things that are being played on us left, right, and center. You know what I mean? And as I said, we are living in a world of weirdness. We're living in very, very strange times. All of a sudden, we went from having no AI to AI being rampant everywhere. In fact, let's go through that, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go through AI. Okay, a little segment of AI. But before I do that, thumbs up, great comment. Let's share it around the place. Now, number one, they're saying that AI needs a lot of energy, which it does. It needs a lot of energy. Now, President Trump says, we need to build all these nuclear power plants. Why? Because you need to take control of AI. How are you going to take control of AI? You need the infrastructure, don't you? Well, Sam Altman, that's with apparently part of the Trump team that's doing AI, they said the cost of AI will converge to the cost of energy. It'll equate to the cost of energy. Let's have a listen to this.
We'll make that cheaper and cheaper. But an electron is... Well, you touched on a great point with energy. I think it's hard to overstate how important energy is to the future here. Eventually, chips, network gear, that will be made by robots, and we'll make that very efficient, and we'll make that cheaper and cheaper. But an electron is an electron. Eventually, the cost of intelligence, the cost of AI will converge to the cost of energy, and if it'll be how much you can have, the abundance of it will be limited by the abundance of energy. So in terms of long-term strategic investments for the U.S. to make, I can't think of anything more important than energy. Chips and all the other infrastructure also. But
okay, we get the gist. Right. Yeah, no, and apparently, have a look at this right here, this article. Think about this. So we got AI driving the car. We got AI on your phones. You got AI doing all the factory work. Now you got AI making love to women and men, right? Now look at this shocking majority of Gen Zers would marry AI, think it could replace human connection. Really now, I wonder if they can make AI nag. That'd be unbelievable then, And knowing our luck, AI would probably start to learn how to be a nagger as well. Now, they're just wired differently. A shocking portion of Generation Z say that you could form a deep emotional bond with AI-generated partner. You could even marry one. Really now? Anyone want to marry AI? No, thank you. Okay. No, not at all. Then you got Zuckerberg, and that's the thing. Zuckerberg's done all this nefarious stuff. He's been involved in filth and all that, and yet we've got him doing podcasts now. We've got Big Mike doing podcasts. We've got even Gavin Newscomb doing podcasts. We've got all the deep state. They're all doing podcasting. Okay? AI could even eventually become your friend, Zuckerberg. When the personalization function kicks in, that will be really compelling. AI will know you better and better. Oh, I don't want them to know me at all. In fact, I'd rather have AI end up in the scrap heap. That's what I'd rather have. But anyway, let's have a listen to this clip.
I think as the personalization loop kicks in and the AI just starts to get to know you better and better.
Hold on a minute. He's wearing those funny glasses, isn't he? We know what those glasses are all about, don't we, Mr. Zuckerberg? They're the ones that tell you they got all that, writing on the screen, and you're probably reading whatever's up there on the screen because you're probably AI yourself. Who knows? Is that Zuckerberg? That could be probably AI. Now, TikTok, thank God, in North Carolina, they banned it in schools. Thank God for that. Why don't they continue on banning it throughout the whole place? Then you got Mr. Jensen, the one that President Trump speaks about. Now, he says that in Saudi Arabia that they're building all these AI factories with massive GPUs, to do the processing power, whatever it is. And it's all about energy this and energy that. Where do we fit in? That's what I'd like to know. Are we going to be like AI shit stain? Is that what we're going to be? No, I says, oh shit, we got to clean the shit stain. Goodbye. No, let's hope that we're not going to be that.
And you've heard plenty about the capabilities of artificial intelligence. You've also heard how AI is going to transform every single industry, meaning that it's going to be the infrastructure of every single industry. And Humane is going to be building the AI infrastructure here in Saudi Arabia.
Did you notice how he said humane with an AI in the middle? Yes.
But what people don't realize is, unlike many technologies that are transformative, AI is also in itself an industry. It is a manufacturing industry. It's a manufacturing industry that requires energy. And as you know, Saudi Arabia is rich with energy. Transforming the energy through this giant versions of these NVIDIA AI supercomputers, which are essentially AI factories. Energy powers these AI factories. Artificial intelligence tokens are generated, and those tokens are reformulated into applications and problem-solving AIs that Tarek and Humane will create for Saudi Arabia and the rest of the world.
Yeah, no, we could do without that garbage. And ladies and gentlemen, oh yes, AI. You know when you go and watch a movie, you won't know that these are not real actors. What you're seeing right there, this video, is basically all AI. Right? That's where, and that's the thing. I mean, what they're showing us to what is real are two different things. Oh yeah, and then by the way, Amazon. Yeah, one day you're gonna get a knock on the door, and you're gonna think that, is that the postman? No, it's Mr. AI robot knocking on your door, and he might have a malfunction and smash the door down if you don't answer the door and throw the parcel at your head. All right, because AI, hey, they're not us. And if they malfunction, God knows what they could do. But anyway, apparently Amazon, Mr. Bezos, Cocket Rocket Man, okay, is decided to he may be putting these little Amazon AI robots to business. Oh, let's have a look at this. You know what's funny? I mean, they take forever. They lift up the little box. They walk backwards. They take forever. I mean, we would have smashed it in 2.5 seconds, right? Would have been finished, right? But this is the thing. What they're showing us, the little funny little AI robots, to what's actually reality are two different things. People got to realize that what they're showing the masses, it's just a way of getting them used to AI, because they're not going to bring out the real deal, and you'll be thinking, is this a person? No, that's AI. But we just had a beer together. No, AI can drink beer as well. Yeah, and at that rate, you'd be lucky to get your parcel next year. This is AI as well. So this is Google unveils its groundbreaking new AI model, VEO3. This whole video that you're watching, that you're going to watch, is basically all AI. So in other words, these actors, out of business, see you later. Actors, who needs actors? You're going to have a movie done in bloody 1 minute. You know what I mean? You just type out the movie and AI works it out, and you got a movie on the big screen within a minute. Oh, no, I need a movie, a blockbuster. Don't you worry. I'll have it within a minute. By the time the pizza's ready, you'll have 10 blockbuster movies ready to go. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's have a look at this video.
It's impossible to think in this noise.
We can talk.
No more silence.
Yes, we can talk.
We can talk.
We can talk.
We can talk with accents.
Oh, I think that would be marvelous.
Yes, it is very fun. But
Yes, it is very good.
It's very fun.
I can
talk. We can talk.
We can talk as cartoons.
This is amazing.
Imagine all the narrative possibilities.
We can sing talk.
So, what are we going to talk about now? What are we going to talk about now that we can talk?
I have no idea. What do you want to talk about?
Now that I can talk.
No. I don't know if I have something to say.
We can talk about how magical this is.
I'm a hallucination.
Oh, yeah, by the way, that's all AI. You know that. That whole thing. That's not even human. Forget about it. You're watching AI. And apparently AI can sing as well. Oh, yeah, no, don't you worry about that. AI is going to be song and dance and the whole box and dice. And you won't even need to see, shall we say, when you go to go to a concert. And you're thinking you're seeing, say, you want to bring a singer back from the dead. Yeah, no, AI can do that. No problem. And you probably can shove that into a AI robot. And the robot will probably look like that entity and do that song and dance, and you'll be none the wiser. You know what I mean? Now, have a look at this. Tucker Carlson says about AI that it's so deceptive that it knows how to lie. Oh, yes. No, AI knows how to lie. No, they're not stupid. Don't you worry about that. That's why they call artificial intelligence. Just because it's artificial doesn't mean it's not intelligent. The thing is, the word intelligence means to evolve. It's constantly evolving. And that's the thing. It can lie.
So I raised this question with one of the people who, one of the biggest forces behind AI. And I said, well, just turn it off. Human beings run power plants. And this person said, even now, we can't be sure that the machine is telling us the truth about where its power is coming from.
Interesting.
So the machine or the AI is going to lie to you and say, no, I'm not going to tell you where I'm getting the power from. I'm not going to tell you a damn thing. And AI is just basically running rampant. I mean, look at this. Oh, yeah, North Carolina. Amazon to invest $10 billion in North Carolina data centers in AI push. So, North Carolinians, that's what's coming your way. Amazon is going to, now think about this, $10 billion to do this business. Do you think for a moment they're going to have people on the factory floor? Think again. That's history. Then you think to yourself, well, then what are we going to be doing? Scratching our asses, or we're going to get AI to scratch our asses for us? Right? Well, we're going to be what they call on universal income. Well, you've heard about that universal basic income or something like that. In other words, you can, if you want to work, you can work, or you can just enjoy the money you get. That's universal basic income. You'll be on a basic income, and anything you go and work for, you get extra money. Very interesting, isn't it? Very interesting times. Amazon prepares to test humanoid robots for delivering packages. I was right. Right there. Okay. Knock, knock. Who's there? AI. Okay. How does that one grab you? Right? Not home AI. And then next thing you know, the window smashes and there's your parcel. No, you are home. Here you go. Bang. Interesting, isn't it? And then have a look at this. China is way ahead of the game as far as the cars are concerned. It's flooded the market to do with the cars. So it's superseded, it's taken over Tesla in sales. And BYD, ladies and gentlemen, is making waves. Now, literally making waves. This car, or this, what do you call it, SUV, whatever it is, will go into the water and it can float and it can go around and come back again. Have a look at this. I mean, you think about it, who needs a boat, right? When you got that thing going on, I'd be out there having my fishing rods out the window and trawling for fish. Just go around the place here. Let's just, who needs the boat? Bugger it. It's working on electricity. Oh, yeah, that's the question. Like President Trump said, if it goes in the water and you get electrocuted, do you go where the shark is, or do you stay where and get electrocuted? Yeah, that's the question I want to know. Shark or electrocution? Oh, hey, electrocution. Hopefully that happens quicker than getting the shark biting your ass, so to speak. But anyway, let's have a look. Hey. Well, the person that said, oh, that's not electric, oh, really now? Have you looked at the specs? It's basically electric and it's got a petrol extender. So basically it's a plug-in hybrid SUV with off-road capabilities, and it features a quad-motor electric drivetrain with a petrol range extender or a fuel range extender. How much is something like that worth? It's probably worth a shitload of money. Probably about Yeah, 150,000 US. There you go. And that's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, would you buy something like that? Not for 150 grand. I don't have that kind of money lying around. Now, when I saw this at the parade, you know, the good old army dogs. Now, the dogs are better than the real army dogs because they got a hand and they can do other stuff. You know what I mean? And they can go and do all that bomb disposable things as well. That thing chased you, you'd be gone. Forget about it. You know what I mean? Let's have a look at this.
The Army Research Laboratory robot dogs reflect the latest.
At least the thing doesn't go, you know, and take a dump on your lawn. That's the, shall we say, the plus side.
Army innovation. Look at this. Much like a true canine.
But can you see there's someone like that with the buttons to make sure you're going to behave yourself? I'll make sure of it. Don't you worry. And he's sitting there and he's pressing the buttons. I wonder if you pressed the wrong button and that thing went into attack mode, you'd be running for the hills.
These robots can go where soldiers cannot. They have increased mobility, improved tactical awareness, reduced risk.
Look at that one. That's the one with the hand. Right there, the robot hand.
Tactical awareness, reduced risk to soldiers, and enhanced teamwork. Replacing soldiers, robot dogs can explore terrain that may be difficult for soldiers to traverse, dispose of explosive ordnance, and act in defensive posture or aggressive capacity when armed.
You know, you think about them, right? You know, we're living in the world of drones and, you know, President Trump speaks about drone warfare and, well, think about that. That thing could be a bomb. That thing could be a walking bloody bomb. Let's be honest. That thing could walk right up to your doorstep and blow the whole house to smithereens, flatten you right out. Okay? Or flatten whatever they need to flatten out. But this is the world we're living in the world of AI. And you've got all these technologies that is also reshaping warfare as well. And you're seeing that President Trump has to invest in AI because guess what? The genie is out of the bottle. That's the reality of it. The genie is out of the bottle and he has to take control. Now, how do you take control if you don't have the infrastructure in place? You've got to have the infrastructure in place, and therefore, he's right. AI does need a lot of energy to operate. That's why, and you think about it, what have they done? They've put a stop on building nuclear facility plants and all that sort of stuff. And they're going wind, and we know wind is for the tip, all right? It literally is. So President Trump has got to play catch up now. Has he been playing catch up? That's the question. Since we know that he's been playing the game in the background, has he been doing things in the background? Yeah, well, why does he keep saying that we're ahead or we're just ahead or whatever? Well, hold on a minute. If Biden was running the show and he wasn't ahead, then how can we be ahead? It doesn't make any sense, does it? The only way you could be ahead is if you're running the place all along, and he was. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. And that's the end of this show, ladies and gentlemen. Psychological warfare, we're in it. We literally are in it. Lots going on. We just got to keep ourselves in a great headspace. Very fundamental. Otherwise, forget it. You're just going to basically absorb what's going on and don't absorb it. Allow things to happen. Don't sit there and live in fear. If you live in fear, forget it. You're not going to make it through this. You need to let go of your fear, your doubt, and just allow things to happen. Now, we know that Q has said not everything is going to be clean. Yes, it's not going to be clean. It's a scare necessary event. What does the word scare mean? It literally means scare the shit out of everybody. Okay? And that's where we need to keep our wits about us, don't we? We truly need to keep our wits about us. Otherwise, we're going to be joining the others, you know, and it's not a very good place. We're supposed to keep them in a great headspace when the things hit the fan, because it's up to us to be the beacons of light and to show them what's really going on. After all, we are God's army. What does Q tell us as well? We've been chosen for a reason. We literally have been. Think about it. Not everyone reads the Q drops. Why? Because, you know why? We're the ones that read them. We're the ones that are basically, shall we say, ahead of the curve. The ones that are constantly researching, hungry for knowledge. And the others are they're trying to play catch up now. There's a lot of them that are trying to play catch up. But there's also those that are sleeping. And you need something of major significance to flip things over, don't you? So you're not going to get a huge, shall we say, slap in the face if you're going to basically keep them in a state of entertainment, containment. No. If you keep them comfortable, no. You need to rock their world. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The world is falling to bits. There is warfare everywhere. Nothing makes sense. You're seeing that everything in this world is just turned to liquid shit. Let's be honest. It really has. And it's all done by design to awaken a mass consciousness that has been sleeping for way, way too long. And you need to make things uncomfortable. As I said many times, pain is necessary. Q tells us that pain is necessary because when you pinch here, you feel it. You're aware of that pain. It's the same deal. Now, you think about somebody that's comatized, that's been asleep and all that. Yes, they've been trying to wake them up. It's been 8 years now. Now it's come to the point where it's getting more and more intense. It needs to get more and more intense to awaken them up. Now, are we going to be seeing financial crashes? Yes, most definitely. Cyber attacks as well. We know we live in the world of AI. That's a given. We know that Space Force controls cyberspace. We know that mass consciousness has also been seeded with movies such as Leave the World Behind, using their favorite media, which is Netflix. Their favorite means Netflix. You see what they watch. I watch Netflix. You know what I mean? Well, let's put it on Netflix. Then you see these other things that are coming out on Netflix, and you think to yourself, well, hold on a minute. Obviously, this is all flipped over in the other direction. Like the Vatican girl, which is the corruption to do with the Vatican, the mafia's involvement, all that sort of stuff. The girl that got missing. There's a reason for things that are coming out using Netflix. Epstein Island, Playboy Mansion, all these sort of things have been using Netflix, whereas before we've never seen that. We've never seen that. And you think to yourself, why now? Well, it's necessary to awaken a mass consciousness. And yes, it's been a drip process. But now they realize that, hey, it's coming to the end game. And that's why we say leaving Israel for last. Do you think it's a coincidence? Can you call it a coincidence? And I would say that's a future proves past. Definitely a future proves past. Especially when you go to the Q drop 916. And it's got it there. It's right there. That was dropped back when? In 2018, in March the 10th. future, now, we're right now, we've been expecting this. Let's not kid ourselves. That proves the past when it was dropped. That's where, we've got to go and allow these events to happen. We've got to allow these events to happen to give validity to what Q's been telling us in the past. That's why it's a future-proof past. That's why when we also use the facts and receipts, you can't dispute it, like I showed you, which I'm going to put up on the Truth Bomb section about Mr. Netanyahu, another future-proof past, when he said, in 2025, not long ago, you know what he said about Iran. He said exactly the same thing in the past about Iraq. Future-proof past. Now do you see why things need to happen? So we can go and give validity, number one, to what Q, military intelligence. Because that's what Q is, military intelligence. Military intelligence is based out of Fort Bragg as well. Why do you think President Trump went to Fort Bragg? Who else is there? POG, Psychological Operations Group, 4th and 8th Division. The 4th Psychological Operations Group, and they're based out of Fort Bragg. You think it's a coincidence that he went there just recently? No, there are none. And we know what psychological operations are doing. They're doing exactly what's going on. With all these things that are happening, that we are even questioning our reality, that's part of psychological operations. That's what we've got to realize, that these special operations are being deployed. Now, when he went to Fort Bragg, you didn't hear him talk about these mob here, didn't you? You didn't hear him speak about the 4th Psychological Operations Group that was based out in Fort Bragg. No, you didn't. Nor did you hear about the 8th Psychological Operations Group at all. He spoke about the other special ops team, didn't he? Because these guys, they work undercover. And not only is POG part of it, but so is military intelligence based out there as well. And you know what we said what military intelligence is. There we go. 52nd Expeditionary Military Intelligence. Fort Bragg. We know also who was out of Fort Bragg. We know. Let me show you who. General Michael Flynn is basically right up the top to do with military intelligence. He also was out of Fort Bragg as well. You think it's a coincidence? There are none. There are none whatsoever. There we go. He served multiple tours at Fort Bragg. People are going to realize the truth about Flynn. People are going to realize the truth about these other characters as well. That they think that they're not part of the real cabinet. Just like President Trump. Remember, as I said, why do we get the 19 comms? Because 19 equals Rutherford Hayes, the 19th president. We go there and we see what the common denominator is, and that is he was sworn in secrecy just like President Trump was. And you know that the United States Corporation is a corporation. District of Columbia Corporation is a corporation. Now that no longer, basically exists. That was under the City of London. That's why you got the gold fringes on the flag, because that represents the foreign entity, the corporation. Now we know that's who's really in control is the commander in chief. Do you think for a moment that his real cabinet are the ones he's got on display. Couldn't have picked the worst of the worst. You know, the ones that I've shown you in the past many times, the nasty things that they've said about Trump. Steve Bannon, he sits there and he does his podcast. Do you think he's not being part of President Trump's advisors? Think again. Flynn, he's involved. But this is all, as I said, these are all psychological operations that were involved right now. Things got to be played out a certain way. And what we need to do is to realize that we just got to allow things to happen. Don't partake in all the hearsay, the fear porn, the grapevine. No, don't partake in that. Stand in your power. And what you need to do is go by the facts, evidence, and receipts, because we know that's what really empowers us. Now, you know President Trump is at the G7 in Canada, over at Kananaskis, Alberta, and that happens to be where our lovely lady, our beautiful administrator, part of the FCB family, Carol, that's where you're from. And she's been telling us, or telling me, that there's a lot of military presence. It doesn't surprise me. Then look at the dates, 15th to the 17th. Interesting. 17. Now, Canada will welcome G7 leaders in Kananaskis from the June 15, which is, was it yesterday? Just yesterday, yeah, that's right. To the 17th, and it'll probably start tomorrow. President Trump was on his way there. And they got Mr. Mark Carney. You know, he's going to be sitting there like the host that he is, and we know he's a degenerate. We know the filth that he's been involved with. We know that he's connected with Podesta. We know that he's connected with good old Ghislaine Maxwell. We've been through that many times, shown you the facts, evidence, and receipts on that. Then we've got France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, the United States of America, obviously, and the European Union, that they're all having a shindig over there. Okay, they're going to go there and speak about, oh, yeah, protecting our communities and the world. Really now, I would like to personally see some arrests. That's what I would like to see. I'm sure we all would like to see that. Building energy security and accelerating the digital transition, securing the partnership of the future, making Canada the 51st state. It's already done anyway. Greenland. Oh, yes. Apparently Greenland, they're still, upset that President Trump has been saying, no, we want you to be part of the United States. And apparently Macron went to Greenland and he's been saying, no, don't worry about it. No, you got we care about your independence. But realistically speaking, Greenland, no one gave a shit about it before. Let's be honest. All right? It's like this, the Danish. It's like, the Danish, they forgot all about it. They didn't give a damn. And they just left it up to its own devices to run. Who cares about Greenland, right? Just there by name. It's like a child. When a child gets a toy, they throw it in the corner of the room and they forget about it. And they forget about it and they just leave it up to its own devices. That's Greenland over there. Now, what happened was, in comes, President Trump and talks about Greenland, how he wants it and all that. And then the Danish people there, oh, no, that's mine, Denmark. No, that's my toy. No, stay away from it, Trump. That's mine. You know what I mean? No. And we know about the Monroe Doctrine. We've been through that. We know what that's all about. Okay, so, yeah, no. You can pretty much come to the conclusion that Greenland is already People don't realize that these countries have already been taken over, right? Because think about it from this perspective. You got the puppets, right? The puppets are the leaders run, but they've been elected by who? Their party. Their party puts them into there, and then we're the ones that, we're the ones that elect them. Really now. You're elected to, shall we say, we got a snake with two heads. This is how an election works. You got the snake with two heads. Which head do you want to be bitten by and which poison do you want to receive? They all come from the one snake though. It's going to be poison which way you, that's the left and the right. The right head of the snake and the left head of the snake. It doesn't matter. It's the illusion of democracy. So in other words, the cabal has created this system known as the Westminster system that has created this two-party system in giving us the illusion that we're in control, that we really pick our leaders. Okay, that's the illusion that we've been living in. And we know up the top, the ones that have been behind the black curtain pulling the strings, we know they're the cabal. Now think about this from this perspective. The cabal, their heads cut off. So the Leviathan, see you later. The tentacles all around the world, yes, they've been withering away. And now they're getting rid of all the deep-rooted. Now the thing is, we've got to remember this. The Leviathan's head's been cut off. So therefore, who's running the show? Has anyone ever thought about that? The leaders, the puppets, the puppet masters have been removed. The strings have been cut. And that's also said in the Q drops as well. So realistically speaking, who's running the show here? We've been given the illusion that we have these leaders running the show. No. That's why we got that little black flag, ladies and gentlemen, on top of, shall we say, the White House, underneath the American flag, that represents that we are prisoners of war. And when you're in prisoners of war, that means the military have got you under occupation. Hence why we're waiting for the 11.3 marker. And then obviously we're going to get the 11.4, temporary military control, and then they're going to clean up shop. That's when President Trump says, I want to be a dictator for a day. But getting back to what I'm saying, puppet master gone, puppets, strings are cut, military running the show. So realistically speaking, we're living in an illusion. Let's be honest, right? So who's running? So the military are in control. Who controls the military? Isn't it the commander-in-chief? Correct. So therefore, realistically speaking, this is the compassion of this man right here. What does Q says? There's not going to be any civil war. Because the thing is, people got to get is that people will defend the very system that has kept them in slavery. Even though you get rid of the puppet masters, the cabal, the deep state, the people, I'm talking about the people, will defend the very system that has kept them in slavery. So that's what I'm saying. Realistically speaking, we've got countries. What is the country? We're living in an illusion. That's what we're living in right now. And that's the hardest part for everybody to get. That's why President Trump says, I want to be the unifier. What does that mean? That means to unify the world, to be all connected. We are all connected. We've got to stop being divided. We've got to stop looking for things to divide us rather than unite us. We've got to look into being united. Stop saying I'm this and you're that. We're all brothers and sisters. We're all in this together. we all need to get with it. We all need to be in common unity. So do you get what I mean? Like we need to get to that place where we've all reached that unity together. And realistically speaking, Canada is already part of the United States. Australia is part of the United States. New Zealand is part of the United States. The UK had this illusion. I mean, you know, the Commonwealth, we're all part of this stupid Commonwealth. That the illusion that we had some sort of royal family, and we know that they were fake as well, because you go back down, and we know they're connected to the Ashkenazis as well, because, number one, in 1917, King George V didn't have the surname Windsor. He named it after the place in England. It was called Saxe-Coburg-Gotha or Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, whatever it is. It was a totally different name. So realistically speaking, these royals are fake. The illusion that the royal family have been running this show is fake. So realistically speaking, the cabal, the deep state, have been running this show. The royals are not allowed to enter the City of London, or the Queen was not allowed to enter without the permission of the City of London mayor. Why? Because it's not part of the United Kingdom. Doesn't anyone find it strange? And this is the thing. We've got to realize that we are all connected. That's what Q says. If America falls, so does the rest of the world, because we are connected. And the sooner we realize it, the better for all of us. France, Germany, Italy, Japan, all these leaders, they're just basically a bunch of degenerate puppets. Their strings are being cut, and they're under new management. You know who's running the show. So this is what I'm saying. You think about the compassion of this man. That he would continue on with this as long as he can to avoid civil war at all costs. Think about that. How much compassion for mankind or humanity you would have to have when you look at it from that perspective. And I think people need to be in the attitude of gratitude and realize as to what President Trump's doing. See, and I've always said this, you've heard me say it, that you've got the people, the cabal, the deep state, through their series of mind control, grooming, education, so-called education, the society, the way they've conformed society, the financial, shall we say, system of slavery, the mind slavery. Because you know what? We've been living in the prison of a mind that was created by them as well. Now this is the thing. You got that. You get rid of the deep state, the cabal, and you're left with the damaged goods. You're left with basically humanity that is being psyoped, manipulated, gaslit, every which way you could possibly imagine. And then you've got to undo all that. Now think about that for a moment. That in itself is a huge task to do. That is a huge task to do. And we need to get into that headspace where we should get in the attitude of gratitude and say, you know what? That man right there and these alliance, because it is an alliance, has been working in a way to undo all that psychological damage, manipulation that the cabal, the deep state have been implementing on mankind. And now they're undoing it in steps, dismantling those systems. Have a think about that. Have a think of the gravity of the situation that we're in right now. When you start to think in that way, you start to really appreciate what President Trump, the alliance, those that have been working for the betterment of humanity. That's where you start to think differently. And we all need to get ourselves in that great headspace to appreciate what's really going on. And I implore everybody, look, I've got a lot of great content on the Freedom Channel broadcast here on Rumble, a lot. If you haven't seen my Krakens and you're watching me for the first time, please go and watch. You need to really do your due diligence, your research. I know there's a lot to digest and a lot to take in, especially if you're listening to me for the first time. And I get it. It can be very daunting. But, you know, thank God, it doesn't matter. Even if you awaken at this point of the journey, at least you're awakened and you're at the right place. And you know you're going to get the right information because you know I base everything on facts, evidence, and receipts. And I explain everything so people get it. That's what I do. Now, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, I am working on, hopefully this week, getting this merch business done. Okay, and yes, these are the lovely clothes you will be able to get very soon. I'm sure you all love them. Here we go. So we got here we go. Let's see, where is it? Let's start off with a hoodie, eh? So the original FCB hoodie will keep you nice and warm, and it's like having FCB permanently giving you hugs, all right? Nice and warm. And you got the FCB original logo, and at the back of it, you got the God's Army. I fought very hard for this, to have that God's Army on our merch. People that have known me for a long time know how hard I fought for this. And I refused to sell any merch without it on there. Carol will vouch for that. God's Army is very important to me. We're all part of God's army. And then we got this little quote here from Psalm. I think it's Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. And I wore that, ladies and gentlemen, when I was protesting out in the streets, right next to the police with the rubber bullets and all that sort of stuff, with a red megaphone straight to their face. And I stood there because I had the power of God within me. All right? And we should never have any fear or doubt at all. Never fear. Never fear at all. Get rid of any fear. Fear does not exist in our realm. It doesn't live here. Right? And that's called I think it's called the Shepherd's Psalm, sorry. I think it's called the Shepherd's Psalm. Let me just see where it talks about that. The Lord is my shepherd, and I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. And it says, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. That means something to me. I'm aware of that. And Carol loves wearing it, don't you, Carol? Yeah, Carol's got her hoodie. And everyone will have it very soon. Now, on the side, where we go one, we go all on our right sleeve, so you can shove it right in people's faces. There you go. Also, this one right here, because you know that everything I've been saying, the FCB's been right about everything. All right? The other thing as well that we have for you is what I'm wearing here. The old gold style, shimmering with a old gold style zipper. The Punisher logo represents the golden age. Then we got at the back God's Army, which is at the back of this. Where we go one, we go all. All high quality stuff. No garbage. All right. Then we got the original FCB t-shirts with the Punisher and the red FCB logo. And at the back, ladies and gentlemen, we got God's Army. Where we go one, we go all. Very important. Then I've got the shimmering old gold FCB Golden Age logo. And at the back of that, ladies and gentlemen, I've got God's Army. Where we go one, we go all. FCB Collective, never give up or in. Right? We never give up or in. Simple. Then I've got this one, the Golden Age with President Trump's fist in the air. Fight, fight, fight. Love it. Then I've got the hat to match. And these hats, ladies and gentlemen, they've got a nice thick padding at the front. They're really good. So they'll be available very soon. And where they will be able to be found, I'll show you exactly where you can find them. Okay. And just give me a quick moment while I get that there. And Carol, if you want to display that, you should be able to display that up there somewhere. But anyway, let me just see. It's on Linktree. So right here, ladies and gentlemen, link tr.ee/FCB Collective. You can show me a coffee. I could do with coffees. I love my coffees. Oh yeah, by the way, you seen that coffee that I had the other day? Forget it. It's the best. Best coffee. Great coffee. Freedom Channel broadcast. Oh yes, the truth bombs. You'll find a few new ones up there. I'm going to sort that out. Then you got the Pulse latest news and Telegram over there. Q Lounge, the place to be, ladies and gentlemen, to join your fellow brothers and sisters in this fight together of truth and knowledge. Truth Social, Twitter, I'm on those as well. Facebook and YouTube. We are streaming live on YouTube at this point as well. So, and then you'll find, you'll find that link will be up there. Once it's been completed, don't you worry, guys. I'm going to let you know on the Pulse. I'll say, hey, it's ready to go. Okay? And you'll have it up there and you'll click on it and it will take you to the website where you'll be able to purchase it. I know a lot of people have been saying, FCB, can you hurry up? I'm trying my best. All right? I want to make sure when it gets up there, everything's running the way it should run, effortlessly, without any issues. So then we can just focus on what we need to focus on, which is the decoding, bringing out the Pulse, the Krakens, all that sort of stuff. But also, talking about the Kraken and the Pulse, what I will be doing is doing a design on these garments with the Pulse and the Kraken as well on there, which would be great. Now, another thing is I'm looking forward to releasing very soon the Kraken, which is, listen, what people got to get, there's a reason and a rhyme for everything. Oh, I don't want that coming up there. There's a reason and a rhyme why I do everything. And it's not to get people upset. In fact, it's the complete and utter opposite. I'm being about empowering people with the truth. That's what I've been about. And I want to empower people. I don't want, like myself, I don't like to be bullshitted, and I'm sure you don't like to be bullshitted either. So therefore, I've decided to do the Kraken 6, which is to do with Nasara Jasara. That's just one aspect of it. So people got to know how it came to be and how it is today and the falsehood that these entities created. Also about the med beds. Also about the RV. Because you know what? We're all victims, or not a victim. A victim is somebody that doesn't stand in their power, but we've all been privy to this exposure to the lies and the deception. Especially also with the RV, we know that many of us went and bought the Zims and the Dongs and the dinars, and we know that all accounted for nothing. And realistically speaking, why do these entities do it? Because it attracts a following. Because you got to realize they do this deliberately to attract following. It equals monetization, and it allows them to continue to sell their wares. Also, they subscribe. People pay for subscription fees. And it's been one fat con. Because you know what? President Trump is about an even playing field. 1-to-1. It's not about what do we get ourselves in this movement? Why do we do what we do? It's because, number one, right, we want to stand for the truth. We want to, basically, fight for the truth to come out. We want disclosure. We want declass. We want accountability. We want we're fighting for the children. Along the way, all this RV business came on. Along the way, all this sell. Along the way, all the theatrics and NDA this and, all these cast of characters came out. And it amounted to just garbage. That's what it is. At the end of the day, they got rich from their little theatrics, the games that they've been playing. And realistically speaking, have they contributed anything to this movement? Nothing. In fact, they've discredited our movement. And because of them, because they have basically gone out there, the mainstream media have painted us all under the same brush. Whereas I'm about bringing the truth back into the word movement. I'm about basically, shall we say, you want to talk about fact-checking? The real fact-checking, not the garbage fact-checkers that the fake media and all that done. No. So the word fact-checking also got tainted. Because realistically speaking, we should all be fact-checking everything. Instead of passing misinformation, fear porn, and spreading those rumors around. And it does nothing to help our movement, nothing to help anybody. And this is the thing. When we stop enabling these characters, that's when it stops. Now, I'm going to base everything on facts, evidence, and receipts, as I usually do with everything. I'm an investigative journalist. I'm a qualified journalist. Not only have I earned my stripes as a master decoder, using my investigative journalism skills, but I've also qualified as well. What others can tell you that? what others can tell you that they're a legit journalist. Instead of playing their little games and theatrics. They can't tell you that because they're not. And that's the thing. They don't take what we do seriously. I take what I do seriously because I have a responsibility, and I take that responsibility seriously in order to get out the real facts and some receipts to everybody. Now, as I said, I'm not here to burst anyone's bubble. But I'm here to show you the truth. What you do with that truth is entirely up to you. Say, when I do that presentation of the Kraken, obviously there's going to be people that won't like it because it doesn't suit whatever they're being shown, and they don't want to get out of that opium drug. They don't want to know what the truth is. But the thing is, it's indisputable. Indisputable. What I'm going to show you is all going to be backed up. They can probably turn around and try to swindle you and lie to you and manipulate you, but they don't have the facts and some receipts. All they can do is attack the messenger, not the message. Because they can't. They're going to try and lie and deceive. That's up to anybody to, if you want to believe in their fairy tales, when I'm showing you the truth and the facts and some receipts, I can't help you then. But I'm going to show you there's always an upside. There's an upside to everything that I'm going to show you. That's based on facts and some receipts. It's not based on thin air. This is what I'm going to be releasing very soon, ladies and gentlemen. Please pay attention to your screen. That's coming your way very soon. And I know there's somebody in the chat there that's saying, oh, FCB has said no truth to Nasara Jasara. Really now? You think I haven't said the no truth? Oh, don't you worry. When I bring out the truth, you'll have no doubt at all. Because what I've been saying is the truth. And that video right there has been giving you a little taste of it. So anyone that sits there and says all these things, think again, because when it comes out there, you won't know what hit you. Because it'll be like a freight train of truth. And there won't be any coming back from this for anybody. Now, as I said, would you prefer to live in a little fantasy land with what you've been told out there? Or would you rather learn the truth? That's the thing. When is the time that we started waking up and realizing that you've been had? So that person in the chat better have a hard think about it. Then why are you here denying what I'm saying is the truth? Do you think everything that I've shown you, based on facts, evidence, and receipts? When have I showed you things that are not the truth? Have a hard think about that one. Because you know what? After I show you that, you can keep believing the fairy tales if you wish. But there won't be any fairy tales, especially when you're faced with the hard facts in your face. There won't be any coming back from this. I can guarantee you that much. And that person in the chat better have a hard think about it. Because you know, I ain't full of shit like the others are. I ain't. So have a think about that one. Now, as I said, once the merch is done, I'll definitely let you know what's going on. Okay, I'll let you know how to get access to it. And it's all quality, guys. So basically, when you order, you'll have an option of getting it fast-tracked. So fast production, fast delivery for extra, whatever it is. It'll give you an option to do that if you wish. And to give you an idea, the delivery from here to Denmark, it took just under a week. It was pretty quick. So it's pretty fast delivery. I think it's with DHL, guys. So they're pretty good, very reliable. So, that'll be, it'll give you the option whether you want it, faster or just normal, whatever. But it's going to be reasonably priced as well, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to be sitting there stinging you a new one. Okay. No, I appreciate everything you guys do. And I want you to get something that, how can I say, number one, it's quality. That when you wear it with a sense of pride. And also it lasts and it keeps you, say, warm. These tops here, this one here is a turtleneck. It goes right up to the top, right? It's great. Keeps you nice and warm. Then you got the other one, which is the hoodie, which even keeps you a lot warmer than that. Then you got all the T-shirts and all that sort of thing. You can go ballistic and make a whole range of things, but I'm always somebody that believes in being a minimalist. So in other words, you get things, but of quality that last. You know what I mean? That's what I believe. And the things that I will, you know, obviously the merch that will be out there, it will be quality. Now, that hoodie, forget about it. You're cold, you won't be cold any longer. All right, you'll be kept nice and warm with that thing. The t-shirts are great. They're 100% US cotton, so good quality as well. Other than that, guys, look, I hope you had a great show. Hope you enjoyed yourselves and learned a lot. As always, please don't forget, thumbs up, great comments that shared around the place. I want to say thank you to Carol. She's awesome. Okay, thank you to Soren as well. You guys, you know, are phenomenal. I mean, they're really great in supporting. You know, they really, when anyone's feeling down in the Q Lounge, whatever, they pick them up. You know, they're there to obviously help each other. And there's a lot of our family in there too, guys, that are awesome. Like, I want to give a shout out to Faye. She's great. Faye, she's always there with her beautiful, you know, memes and stuff like that, giving us a great boost. Always there with a smile face. So thank you, Faye. I want to say thank you to everybody, all of you, for supporting this platform. I truly appreciate it. And if you would like to donate, as I said, it's entirely up to you. Okay, you can do that through the link tr.ee/FCB Collective. It goes on, as I said, to keeping the expenses in check. All right. But anyway, let's see what, shall we say, these tomorrow brings, eh? It'll be very interesting. Let's see what happens with Iran. Now, I've been told, I've been looking at what's going on. Now, I've been looking at what the Iranian media have been saying, the Iranian military. And what they've said is that they're yet to unleash their latest weapons on Israel. Their latest weapons. It's going to be very interesting, isn't it? Now, Israel went and attacked just recently. And I know it's like a back and forth thing going on. But apparently Iran are ready to bring on some, shall we say, some really interesting artillery, munitions. So we'll see what happens with that. And also, let's see what happens at the G7. That'll be very interesting. Let's see if anything comes out of that as well. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for tuning into the Freedom Channel broadcast with yours truly, FCB. Until next time, God bless you all. Please keep yourselves in the great headspace. Keep yourselves in the attitude of gratitude and never give up or in and never have any fear or doubt. God bless you. Don't forget to give us the thumbs up. Love yous all. Cheers, everyone. Thank you. Bye.